Chapter 817. When the birds are gone, the good bough is put away. When the cunning rabbit is dead, the hound is cooked. Governor Zhang, you and Adjunct Wang are truly formidable. You first stabilized the Tubo, and now you've dealt with the tribes of northern Hebei province. From the looks of it, you're planning to deal with the Turks as well. This general congratulates you in advance. But Tu Yu propped up his weak body, looked at Zhang Xiaobao with a pitiful gaze, and said word by word, "Congratulations to you, congratulations to you." It turns out that General Tu Yu also knows how to burn the bridge after crossing the river and get rid of the donkey after it has left the millstone. General isn't trying to persuade me to raise a thief for self-respect and quickly send General back, right? General, please eat slowly. I'll go out and teach generals words to Xiao Bei and the others. Zhang Xiaobao said to Tu Yu indifferently. He no longer cared whether he could eat or not. Looking at Zhang Xiaobao's departing figure, Wei Wei's eyes welcomed the sunlight shining in through the door. Tu Yu ignored the piercing tears that fell from his eyes. Seeming to have thought of something happy, the corners of Wei Wei's mouth curled up. When he turned his head back, he picked up the bowl and began to eat in big mouthfuls. The weather was getting colder. After the autumn harvest, the river became busier. The 40,000-strong army was stuck in the middle of the originally wide river, unable to pass through the surging Yellow River. Order the ships in front to change to small boats. From Dingping to the small river, past Sanshui County and enter the capital. Along the way, ensure that the troops are provided with food and drink and deepen the relationship between the army and the people. When Wang Wan heard the news from the front, she issued a new order, emphasizing the relationship between the army and the people. These words were for the generals who stayed on the ship to hear. The person in charge of delivering the news understood that the operation had begun and hurriedly left. Wang Wan turned around and said to the helpless and angry generals who knew about the unforeseen event in their homeland, "Everyone, the new year is coming. If we do our best to return, it will definitely be tiring. There's not enough time. So why don't we celebrate the new year in the capital and go to Mount Hua to enjoy the snow?" No one responded. The generals looked at Wang Wan with unkind eyes, as if they wished they could eat Wang Wan alive. Wang Wan didn't care how much others hated her. She didn't say anything when she saw them. She hummed a song and went to find Zhang Xiaobao. "Xiaobao, they hate me so much. Li Longji is not bad. He knows how to cooperate with us. With this, at least a third of the 40,000 people will be able to survive. That's quite a force to be reckoned with." When they see how the people of Sanshui County live, they will reconsider their original way of life. This winter, the off-season vegetables in Sanshui County will not be overstocked. Let them eat it and let them know that the Tang Empire can also eat vegetables in winter. Wang Wan found Zhang Xiaobao, who was hiding in the cabin and writing with his head down, and happily said to him, "Oh," Zhang Xiaobao replied. Wang Wan poured herself a cup of water and held it in her hands. She looked in the direction of Sanshui County and said, "Xiaobao, I haven't been back for a long time. What do you think Zhuangzi is like now? If they can hear the sound of reading on the shore and the smoke from the small building rising into the fog when they pass by, won't it scare them again?" "Oh," Zhang Xiaobao replied. "Also, the lotus seeds in the pond are hanging their heads shyly. The reeds by the lake are covered in frost. Isn't it beautiful?" Wang Wan continued asking. "Oh," Zhang Xiaobao replied. "What are you doing? I'm asking you a question." Wang Wan was dissatisfied. Oh, I'm listening. The smoke from the small building rising into the fog is not good. It's easy to get respiratory diseases. The lotus seeds should have been cut long ago. Otherwise, they would all fall into the water. It's the right time to eat lotus roots." Zhang Xiaobao reacted quickly. He raised his head and looked at Wang Wan. "What are you busy with?" Wang Wan didn't care about what Zhang Xiaobao said. She moved closer to take a look. "I'm busy with the rebellion. I'm looking for a suitable place to start the army. The best place is Jinchuan." Zhang Xiaobao moved his body away and pointed at the map to Wang Wan. Wang Wan looked at the map. It was indeed Tubo's Jinchuan. You want to be the emperor? Yes, it's impossible not to be the emperor. Child Zuzan, Mo Jilian, and Kutu will definitely praise our army there. It's good there. There are mountains and rivers, and the yield of barley is high. It can be said that we can attack or retreat. Zhang Shuaishou, who has escaped the wheel of history and still hasn't been ousted, Wu Huifei, who has watched other people's children grow up and can't hurt them, and there are also other people with bad intentions. Can we cooperate with them and not rebel? Zhang Xiaobao touched the Jinchuan line and said faintly. After hearing Zhang Xiaobao's complaints, Wang Wan laughed. Serves you right. Who asked you to solve everything at once and prepare to give up the place? Yes, give it to Li Longji. We'll continue to head northwest. The Darim Basin is not bad. Who said that the Anxi Protectorate should be given to others? We'll go and take it. In any case, Li Longji can't control it. Perhaps after the sword meet on Mount Hua, the great Tang people will go to the Patala Palace like a tourist. Oh, it's called the Red Mountain Palace. Why should we give it to the Tibetan Buddhists? Now is the best time to take it. How much money is wasted there every year? Let's not talk about religion. You can choose not to believe it, but you can't talk about it, Wang Wan hurriedly persuaded. Why can't I talk about it? No one is more sacred than the other. I've decided that the Red Mountain Palace will not be allowed to have any religion in the future. Once they make a move, we'll give up the Jinchuan line. If Li Longji still wants to expand, then we'll continue to head northwest. I think he will support us. He can't wait for us to occupy the Mediterranean Sea in one go. There is a lot of oil there, so we can extract it all. We can find a place near the capital and dig a big hole. We can pour the stones in for future generations. Zhang Xiaobao began to paint a picture of the future. Wang Wan was so amused that she hugged Zhang Xiaobao's arm and giggled. Even if you flood the capital, it won't be able to hold the oil. Where do we take it? Where do we use it? Slaves bought from Tubo? When we're old, can our future generations still hold on? How many Chinese are there in the world? How many countries recognize China? Singapore, Indonesia, the Philippines, and other countries. Do the Chinese recognize them? Back then, England was called the empire where the sun never sets. What about now? In the face of time and power, everything will change. I'll use the slaves for now. I don't care what happens in the future. As long as I'm alive, I'll do what I want to do. What's that saying again? When the world is divided for a long time, it must be united. And when united for a long time, it must be divided. Now that the great Tang has me, I'll do my best to bully others. What does it have to do with me? Right, it has nothing to do with you. You're a good person, a very good person. So good that you use your will to judge others. Then we'll use the slaves first and spend a lot of money on roads. Will we be in the capital this new year? In the capital. We'll bring our parents over to celebrate the new year together. Next year, I'll think of a way to get a job near the capital. Xiao Bei and the others can't always be away from their parents. You should help us choose a good job. My father will be in the capital next year. I think Li Longji will give him a minor rank 1 official, but his actual position will be at rank 3. We'll see what Li Longji and the others think about Jili Province. If they want to give it away, we'll have the people of Jili Province continue north and occupy Mo. Aya, where can we find a good official like me? I'm a pillar of the country. After I die, I should go to Babaishan, the type that gathers the flag. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he used a pen to draw a spot on the map that he wanted to occupy. Wang Wan pinched Zhang Xiaobao's face. Thick as expected. If all the officials of the Great Tang are like you, Li Longji will be worried to death. You're giving up the land, but you're taking the people with you. Northeast, northwest, and south. Holding a large number of soldiers and shouting loyalty. What is it that you're loyal to? Of course, it's my people, the Chinese people. Help me think of something. There are too many things to do, and I'm afraid that I'll be confused and forget. Build a training base. When the conscripts reach the age limit, send them to the training base first, in case they can't find a job after they return from the army. We can't make the same mistake that others have made before. When another rain fell and the weather turned cold again, the generals from the north of Hebei province finally stood on the land of Sanchuei County. Their faces were as gloomy as the weather. The troops could not be contacted. Looking around, it was all the protection teams of the Zhang family and the Wang family. The wharf of Little Luoshui was still bustling with activity. Carriages and horses came and went without stopping. Pedestrians jostled shoulder to shoulder, and the sound of hawking rose one after another. General Kutu, have you had a good rest recently? Over there is the first restaurant in Linshui. The chef's skills are good. Why don't you go and try it? Ever since Zhang Xiaobao's feet stepped on this land, his whole demeanor changed. He had a feeling that the world was so big, and who else could do it but him? He was full of confidence when he spoke to Kutu's day. Kutu, of course, understood why he was like this. If it was the commander-in-chief's mansion of Song Mo, he would not be worse than Zhang Xiaobao. Who didn't know that Sanchuei County was the foundation of the Zhang family and the Wang family? Thank you, Governor Zhang, for taking care of me along the way. If Governor Zhang lost somewhere else, would you still have the face to come back? Kutu clenched his teeth and said, Come back, of course I'll come back. I'm not Xiangyu. Why should I be afraid of losing? I don't care about face. There is only hope as long as I'm alive. General Kutu, please take care. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking to Kutu, he pulled over a child who was running like crazy. He took out a piece of candy and stuffed it into his mouth. Before the child was about to spit out the candy in his mouth in fright, he said, I am the young master of the Zhang family, Zhang Xiaobao. After knowing that no one dared to pretend to be a member of the Zhang family in Sanchuei, the child raised his head and smiled sweetly at Zhang Xiaobao. You're back? I'm back. Zhang Xiaobao grabbed another handful of candy. Chapter 818. What you hear may be false, but seeing is believing. Zuzan, who followed Zhang Xiaobao's group here, finally witnessed the richness of Great Tang. In the past, he had always heard the people he sent to Great Tang talking about how good Great Tang was. However, Zuzan, who had never seen it with his own eyes, felt that Great Tang was only slightly better than Tubo in certain aspects. For example, the clothes worn by the people and the more comfortable environment. As for the food, he felt that the difference between the two places was not that big. If Zhang Xiaobao was not so bad and reduced the food supply of Tubo, Great Tang would not be worse than Great Tang. After traveling by boat all day, Zuzan finally realized the difference between Tubo and Great Tang when they could travel by land after arriving at Sanchuei County. Stepping on the firm ground, looking at the helpers at the docks wearing the same style and color of clothes, looking at the spacious and clean streets, he did not notice any slightly bigger holes on the road. This was probably the cement road that the person who sent back the news mentioned. Looking at the people who were arranged to sell food, they were all clean and tidy. Most of the food they sold was of an unknown variety. The carriages in charge of transporting goods, and people came and went without stopping. The shops by the roadside were neat and tidy. The people walking here had smiles on their faces. Children carrying beautiful backpacks of unknown use stood in a row under the lead of their adults. All the carriages made way for them. The never-before-seen shelves used to load and unload goods moved piles of goods around at an unimaginable speed. In just a short while, a boat full of goods was loaded or unloaded. Sitting in the carriage that was specially prepared for them, they realized that it was many times better than the carriage they were in before. The bumps were almost negligible. After walking for more than a li, the houses on both sides of the wide road were even more attractive. Other than the various restaurants and shops, the people lived in small two-story buildings. The river that the small boats passed through had a sloping embankment. It was as flat as a mirror, and there was not a single bit of trash on the river. Listening to the cries of chickens and ducks, there was no smell of feces when a gust of wind blew. No one would casually find a place to poop or pee. This was an inconceivable thing in Tubo. On the shore, there were pavilions built at intervals, surrounded by plants. Occasionally, The aroma of food wafted out from the pavilions. Pedestrians would occasionally stop to rest in the pavilions and buy some snacks to eat. After the autumn harvest, there were still people busy plowing the land. Those strong and healthy cattle looked like they were from Tubo, no matter how one looked at them. Further on, at a little distance from the shore, there was an open space, surrounded by low walls, in which books with fallen leaves fluttered in the wind. From this height, one could see that in the enclosed space there was a pond, surrounded by pavilions. Under the sunshine, a group of children were sitting or leaning in the corridor, chanting in unison, "There's a guest, there's a guest, there's a white horse. There is prosperity and prosperity, and the journey is meticulous. We have guests, we have guests, we have letters." Watching and listening, Zuzan was frightened by what he saw and heard. Sitting in the carriage, Princess Jincheng looked at all of this with her beautiful eyes. She had not been back for a long time. She did not expect to see such a scenery. It was definitely not fake to confuse others. It was all real. There was actually a fairyland-like place in Tang Dynasty. "Xiao Bei, what's over there?" Princess Jincheng asked the question that Zuzan wanted to ask, but was too embarrassed to ask. Xiao Bei was accompanying the carriage as a diplomat. When he heard Princess Jincheng's question, he turned his head and looked. It was a big courtyard. He generously introduced it. "Princess Aunt, that's a school. They are learning very seriously. It's almost lunchtime. They should be revising the knowledge that they just learned." "Lunchtime? I don't see anyone delivering food." Princess Jincheng had stayed in Tubo for a long time. She was not clear about the lives of the people in Tang Dynasty. Or it could be said that she did not remember that the people in Tang Dynasty ate lunch at this time. Usually, there were 2 meals. The smart Xiao Bei immediately understood. He proudly looked at Zuzan and replied, "Princess Aunt, no one is delivering food. I think the food is already ready. I'll get someone to bring some over to take a look." "Stop the carriage. Someone go to that school and say that Zhang Xiao Bei from Zhangjiazhuangzi wants a lunch." After giving the order, Xiao Bei introduced, "Princess Aunt, the meals of the students here are taken care of by the merchants of Sanshui County. The merchants will take out a portion of the money to be used to feed and dress the children. That's 4 meals a day. We will eat in a while. Soon, we will reach the place where we eat." "Oh, they can actually eat 4 meals a day. Aunt only eats 4 meals a day over there." It seems that the officials in the county are very strict with the merchants. Princess Jincheng was very surprised. Tubo did not have such a school. The management of Sanshui County is not bad. However, the merchants are willing to take the money. No one forced them. The merchants of Sanshui County are very cultured. They are not heartless. After they earn money, they know how to use it for public welfare. In the past, it was our family who forked out the money. Now, the school is being renovated by them. "Princess, Aunt, look at the wall. There are words. Let me take a look." It says that the country is strong from a child. It strengthens the body and enlightens the mind. We have always been working hard. I can't see the words clearly. It should be the name of the merchant who took the money. Xiao Bei's voice was sweet, causing a smile to appear on the face of the Princess of Jincheng. Hearing this, Zuzan felt his entire body turn cold, starting from his heart. If all of this was true, then what would Tubo use to fight against Great Tang in the future? More than 10 years later, when batches of children grow up, it would be too terrifying. Xiao Bei introduced a few more words. The person who took the food came back with a tray in his hand. He passed it to Xiao Bei through the window. Everyone in the carriage looked at the tray at the same time. Let me see what they are eating today. And it's not bad. 2 vegetarian dishes and 1 meat dish. This meat dish is soft-fried tenderloin. Brother's cooking is the best. This is stir-fried meat with garlic. This is scrambled eggs with cucumber. There's also half a salted duck egg. It's marinated well. It's buttery. I like to eat the most. There's more. Why didn't you bring it over? Xiao Bei held the tray and introduced. The last sentence was directed at the people outside. Immediately, another person came over and brought a small bowl and a small plate. The soup has just been prepared. Xiao Bei continued to introduce. Let me see this soup. It's shrimp and winter melon soup. This small plate contains cut fruits. This is a fruit platter. This is called a nutritious combination. It can ensure the children's needs for an entire afternoon. Princess Ant, try it. The main dish is rice and steamed buns. At this moment, Zuzan could not help but smell the fragrance of the food. He asked Xiao Bei, do all the children eat this every afternoon? That's not it. Xiao Bei replied. Just as Zuzan heaved a sigh of relief, she said, the dishes are different every afternoon. The same is 2 vegetarian dishes, 1 meat dish, 1 soup, and 1 fruit platter. You're not allowed to be picky. Today's timing is not good. If it's the 5th day, you can still eat the fragrant bone marrow. Then how much does it cost? All for the children to eat? Zuzan saw that there was a lot of oil in the food and swallowed his saliva before asking. It's worth it no matter how much money is spent. The food given to the child has to be of the best quality. Look at this rice. It's of the highest quality. Whoever dares to give poor quality food to the child will be severely punished if caught. This is called Operation Chaoyang. Many places in the Great Tang have started doing this. It won't be long before it spreads throughout the Great Tang. Even though Xiao Bei was young, she knew what Zhu Zanqi wanted to know. She was also willing to use all her strength to scare Zhu Zanqi. Zhu Zan could not help but pick up his chopsticks and put a mouthful of food into his mouth. He sighed inwardly. The taste was really good. He did not know what seasoning was used to make it so fragrant. Princess Jinsheng also tasted the food. With a gratified smile on her face, she continued to ask Xiao Bei, what do we eat for breakfast? Breakfast is simple. A bowl of milk or goat's milk, 2 eggs, salted vegetables mixed with sesame oil, and cake. After 2 hours of class, we will give you red bean paste or bread with cream fillings and a cup of fruit juice. Occasionally, we can add some of the butter tea from Aunt Princess. Because it's far away, we don't have much here. Brother and sister said that we have to think of ways to get more from Tubo. If Tubo does not agree, we can just snatch it. This is called a snack, not a proper meal. Xiao Bei continued to attack Zuzan until the end. At this moment, Zuzan was already numb. He no longer wanted to compare himself with the Tang Empire. As for Xiao Bei's threat, he pretended not to hear it. Chapter 819. The internet was disconnected last night. He just called and it connected. A loud and clear sound lingered in Jihao's ears, as a human-shaped target about 130 steps away had a large hole in its arm. Li Longji picked up the binoculars and looked at it. He shook his head regretfully and said to Gao Lisher, who was standing beside him, it can shoot farther and harder than a pistol. It takes longer than a bow to find the target. Aim, shoot, reload, and reload. What do you think? Gao Lisher also had a gun in his hand. After aiming for a while, he didn't dare to shoot because the wind was strong. He was afraid that he would shoot too far away from the target and make the emperor think that he was going easy on him. He was also afraid that he would accidentally shoot the head of the target. Hearing the emperor's voice, Ling Ji lowered the muzzle of the gun and finally shot between the target's legs, piercing through the wooden planks used to block the target's back. He secretly sighed in relief and replied, "This gun has a longer range than a bow and arrow. Moreover, it is easier to carry the bullets. It is more accurate than a bow and arrow in strong winds. I think we should make more and equip more troops." Li Longji nodded slightly and reloaded his gun. This time, he didn't really aim and just casually fired based on his feelings. He actually hit the target's neck. Picking up the binoculars, he looked at the hole in the target's neck and nodded with satisfaction. This is also a skill job. This time, Xiaobao wants to show it to Mo Jilian and Zhu Zizan. I wonder if they will be on guard and find a way to deal with the new weapon? Your Majesty, if not, when can we pacify the surrounding small countries? According to Xiaobao, the world is big. There should be a result. What is more important is the etiquette of Zhu Zizan and Cheetah when they meet Your Majesty. Does your majesty really want to be on equal footing with them? Gao Lisher didn't mention how to prevent the other party from finding a way to deal with the new weapon because he still had more powerful weapons that he didn't take out. He planned to use them in the sword competition. At this time, the most important thing was to see the etiquette of the Tubo and Turkic monarchs. Li Longji also knew that he couldn't treat the Tubo and Turkic monarchs like how he treated the Khitans. Seeing that the monarchs of the two countries were coming, face was very important. He said to Gao Lisher, order the Ministry of Rights to come up with a few plans. When the two of them arrive, we will act according to plan. On the way, Zuzhenshide was also considering this matter. He wasn't willing to bow to Li Longji when they arrived at the great Tang's capital. He wanted to be neither servile nor overbearing so as not to throw the face of Tubo. Otherwise, if they really fought in the future, their morale would be gone. Although the soldiers didn't have much morale when they heard that Wang Wan was in charge, they still didn't have much morale. The conditions of the accommodation last night were not bad, but the reception was not good. The imperial court in the capital did not send extra people over, nor did they send a guard of honor to receive them. There were no officials from the Ministry of Rights, but it could not be said that there were no officials. There were 9, appointed at the last minute. Zhang Xiaobei and the others were one of them. Zan Pu, shouldn't we protest to the great Tang imperial court? They dared to disrespect us and didn't even send officials from the Bureau of Rights. They clearly looked down on us. Just as Zhu Zan was about to leave and get on the carriage, a palace official beside him voiced his dissatisfaction. Assistant Minister Zhang and the other 9 are not officials from the Ministry of Rights? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan sent their younger siblings to greet us. How are they looking down on us? Could it be that their status is not high enough? Zhu Zan really wanted to protest to the palace officials, but he didn't dare to do so. If he really protested, it wouldn't be the great Tang looking down on Tubo. It would be Tubo looking down on Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. These two were like lunatics, capable of doing anything. If they were unhappy, they might not go to the capital and turn around to lead their troops back to Tubo. And all of these could happen. The Tubo officials who followed them only mentioned a few words to express their stand. If they really wanted him to protest, he wouldn't dare to do so. He bowed to Zhu Zan and started a new day's journey. Xiao Bei was still acting as a tour guide, answering the questions of the Tubo guests at any time and place. He was very familiar with this. This was how a diplomatic talent was like. The curtains of the car window were raised. As the group walked along the river, they could see the beautiful scenery. Princess Jincheng had a good sleep yesterday. She dreamt of herself before she got married. She dreamt of catching butterflies with a company of palace maids when she was young. When she woke up, her eyes were filled with tears. Now that she was sitting in the carriage, looking at the floating clouds in the sky through the window, she felt a little absent-minded. She stared at a large courtyard and saw people busily walking in and out. Her eyes were in a daze. Xiao Bei was still inexperienced and thought that Princess Jincheng was curious about that place. He introduced it to her. Princess Aunt, that place is a cooked food processing factory. It's the smoked pig trotters and pickled mutton. When it's done, it will be sent to some places in the county. I haven't tried it before, so I think the taste is ordinary. In a while, when it's close to noon, you can go to Zhuangzi. You can taste the authentic and delicious smoked chicken there. The scenery there is better than here. Brother said that he has arranged a very interesting entertainment program for you, but don't go to the heavenly world there to play. It's not interesting at all. Sister said that it's specially prepared for those who are looking for trouble. Oh? What kind of place is that? Princess Jincheng was awakened by Xiao Bei's words and asked curiously. It's just for fun. Yesterday was sad, today was sad, and tomorrow was sad. There's also Sister's poem. Xiao Yuan, come here. What's with the heavenly world? You don't have to come up. Quickly tell me. When Xiao Bei was introducing it, she was worried. She didn't remember what Wang Wan wrote and shouted out the window. She called Xiao Yuan over, but didn't let her get in the carriage. Xiao Yuan angrily glared at Xiao Bei and recited, outside the curtain. The rain is murmuring. The spring is waning. Luo Qin can't stand the cold. In the dream, he doesn't know he's a guest. He indulges in pleasure. Alone, he doesn't lean on the railings. He passes the mountains without limit. It's easy to leave, but difficult to see. The flowing water falls, the flowers go, the heavenly world. After reciting it, he didn't wait for Xiao Bei to catch him. He ran to the back of the carriage and sat down. He swung his legs and looked at the flowing water. He really looked like a scholar. That's right. In the dream, he doesn't know he's a guest, he doesn't know. Princess Jincheng heard a similar feeling and sighed helplessly. She didn't know what to think, but her eyes became confused again. Zhu Zan was very surprised. He didn't expect that such a sentence would come from Wang Wan's mouth. He thought that she would kill people. He suddenly thought of something and asked Xiao Bei, "Since it's cooking, it's natural to use fire. Why can't we see a lot of smoke?" Zhang Xiaobao was trying to eat the ginger that she didn't like. She didn't sleep well last night and caught a cold. When she heard Zhu Zan's question, she swallowed the ginger in her mouth and frowned. It wasn't clear whether it was because it was spicy or because she didn't like the ginger. She explained, "Without firewood and coal, there's naturally no smoke. There are a lot of people working there. Also, they collect all kinds of feces and other things from the surroundings to make a methane pool. It's just enough to make a fire for cooking. Not only do workshops use it, but many people also use it. Now that it's cold, the methane pool produces less methane. If it's summer, there will be countless flames swaying at night on both sides of the river to light up people who come out to play at night." When Xiao Bei said this, Zhu Zan remembered that there was such a piece of information. Many places in the Tang Empire, especially the places south of the Yellow River, used methane. It was a very magical thing. Unfortunately, there was no cement. Even if they found a pond and inserted a bamboo pipe to produce methane, it wouldn't be safe to use it. The Tang Empire didn't sell cement. It was hard to imagine. As they walked, they talked. When Xiao Bei's mouth was dry and she regretted being a tour guide, the group finally arrived at Tuqiao village. Under the clear sky, the Gu family's Zhuangzi and the Wang family's Zhuangzi came into view first. Further away, there was a hazy fog. There were small bridges and flowing water, winding corridors, green mountains, smoky buildings, clear sounds of books, and the sound of birds chirping. It was simply a paradise on earth. Those who had never been here before felt like they were in a dream. "Aunt Princess, this is my home. Actually, I haven't been here many times, but I feel that it's very good. In a while, let's go to Between the Clouds and the Water in front to eat. It's the flagship store, Between the Clouds and the Water." Xiao Bei's voice woke up Princess Jincheng, who was immersed in the dreamlike scenery. She pointed to the foggy area in front and asked curiously, "Why is there fog there?" Zhu Zan also looked like he was waiting for Xiao Bei to explain. "There are many ways. You can use ice, you can boil water, and there's also a special water sprayer. It's very expensive. Brother and sister said that there's another way, which is to use pressure. They can't do it yet, and they don't know how to do it either. Then there will be fog. You can even make it rain as long as there are clouds." Xiao Bei was counting his fingers as he spoke. It seemed like he was trying to calculate how much a day of fog would cost, but in the end, he couldn't do it. Zhu Zan believed the first part of the words, but he snorted at the latter part. Make it rain? Did he really think that he was a god? However, he didn't have any objections to going to Between the Clouds and the Water to eat. It was said that Between the Clouds and the Water in Sanshui County was the best. He finally had a chance to see if it was better than his own palace. Just as everyone wanted to enter Between the Clouds and the Water to take a look, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan came over and invited everyone to play in the mountains for 2 hours. When they came back, they could eat more. They said that there was hunting for entertainment. They also told Zhu Zan that Mo Jilian had also come for 2 days to participate. Chapter 820. After the meal, Zhu Zan, who was invited to the mountain, saw Mo Jilian, who had been waiting for a long time. It could be seen that Mo Jillian had been living a good life recently. At least, there was no problem in terms of rest and food. The only thing lacking was his spirit. Zhu Zan could understand his feelings. When he came to Sanshui County, he saw a different way of life. What kind of life did the people of Tang live? What kind of life did the people of Tubo and Turks live? Comparing the two, it was obvious who was better. Zhu Zan suggested at the last minute. When they went to the supermarket together, they saw a dazzling array of goods. Necessities, clothes, food, drinks, big and small. When winter came, the supermarket was full of people. Looking at the women in ordinary clothes, choosing a good piece of meat, looking at the happy faces of the children buying fresh fruits, looking at the green and thorny cucumbers. One could imagine the standard of living of the people in the supermarket. He really wanted to fight from the border to the capital, to take back all the good things of Tang and give them to the people under his rule. But it was just a thought. Tubo did not have the strength to attack Tang. Tang was already thankful that they did not send troops. Not to mention the Turks, the situation was not stable. Tang had increased the number of troops at the border. Just the number of armor horses had reached more than 20,000. If the grassland was not afraid of horses with poor running speed and endurance, then the light cavalry raised by the Feng province was like a battle knife with half of its blade exposed. There are more and more light cavalry of Fengzhou. Zhu Zan found an opportunity to approach Mo Jillian and said casually. Mo Jillian's face was heavy. It doesn't matter how many light cavalry of Fengzhou there are, but I am afraid that they are under someone's command. Jin Chuan heard that there are many caravans coming and going, so they should congratulate. The two of them said nothing more. Their meaning was very clear. Neither of them was stronger than the other. It was only because the great Tang had a pair of madmen who did things for the sole purpose of achieving their goals and did not consider the effects of other aspects. Silence became the two people's best weapon. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan couldn't care less about the thoughts of the two people who were about to fall. In order to let the two of them know their identities when they met Li Longji, they had to organize this hunting operation properly. Climbing the mountain, sightseeing, looking at the lake in the middle of the valley, looking at the bleak winter leaves on the mountain, and then savoring the unpredictability of the drifting clouds. The group arrived at the hunting ground. There were no large wild animals in the mountains behind Zhangjiazhuangzi. It was impossible for Zhang Xiaobao to transport wild animals from other places for people to hunt. More than 1,000 chickens that were about to become food were placed in a valley. There, they were running around in search of something to eat. Mo Jillian thought that Zhang Xiaobao would find a flat place where the horses could gallop and compare riding and shooting skills, such as hunting a bear or encircling a deer. Now he saw a flock of chickens. Was it to see who could kill the chickens? Just as he was wondering, Zhang Xiaobao took out more than a dozen spears and distributed them to Mo Jillian, Zhu Zan, and the people close to them. He explained to them, when we were at Fengchan, guns appeared. At that time, we used short spears, which had a short range. Recently, long spears appeared, which have a longer range than short spears. We used these long spears to kill a few chickens. How to shoot and how to load the bullets was naturally taught to Zhu Zan and the others. Holding the spear in his hand, Zhu Zan was not sure how powerful the spear was. Looking at the scattered chickens in the valley, he felt that it was a bit far, more than 300 steps away. If it was arrows, only a few people in the army could pull a strong bow. Seeing that Zhang Xiaobao did not intend to continue to move forward, he wondered if this iron pipe could shoot so far away. In order to make you understand, I will arrange someone to show you how to use the spear. Guards, come, there is an enemy in front, shoot at will. Zhang Xiaobao took off the spear on his back and pushed in a bullet. He ordered the people behind him who had already been ready. 200 people were ready to shoot at the same time. After the order was given, the sound of gunshots echoed in the valley. Listening to the continuous sounds, it was even denser than the sound of firecrackers. When Zhu Zan and Mo Jillian's ears were buzzing, they saw the chickens in the valley being killed one by one. The distance of 300 steps seemed to be unable to stop Yama's soul-summoning order at all. It's too chaotic, this accuracy. After Mo Jilian was scared, he suddenly felt that the accuracy of the weapon in his hand should not be as good as the bow and arrow. Listening to the sounds, it was already past the time to light 1,000 firecrackers, and there were still more than half of the chickens left. He thought that there was no need to be afraid. Zhu Zan also had the same idea, and the two of them could be considered to be of the same mind. However, just as the idea came into his mind, he saw Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan take action. The guns they used seemed to be a little different from the others. There was an extra box under the guns. Seeing that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were aiming at the chickens that were suddenly attacked and flew halfway up the mountain, Zhu Zan and Mo Jilian picked up the binoculars lent to them and watched carefully. With a bang, a chicken that had just flapped its wings and flew 2 feet into the air fell down. Then, the gunshots of the two men rang out one after another. After every gunshot, a chicken would fall down. Because the two people were aiming at different places from the others, it was clear that the two people were shooting one after another. Suddenly, a few birds that were frightened by the gunshots flew over randomly, wanting to pass through the opposite valley and find a safe place. Unfortunately, before they could fly far, with a bang, a bird disappeared, followed by a few more gunshots. There were a total of 6 birds, and none of them were lucky enough to escape. Mo Jilian couldn't help but look at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan who were shooting beside him. He saw that the two people's guns moved slightly and fired almost at the same time. Mo Jilian quickly looked over with the binoculars and saw that the 2 flying chickens' heads exploded at the same time, continuing to fly and smashing into the withered grass. Mo Jilian's hands trembled. He didn't have time to wipe the sweat on his forehead, but the clothes on his back were already wet and stuck to his body uncomfortably. They were too accurate. They shot one chicken head after another, not to mention humans. If everyone had the same accuracy as Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, 300 steps was the line of death. Beside them, Zhu Zan, who had been living on the plateau without any problems, suddenly felt that he had altitude sickness. His breathing was rapid and his head was dizzy, as if he would lose consciousness in the next moment. The gunshots gradually stopped. Now less than 100 of the 1,000 chickens were alive and kicking, and they were all on this side of the valley. It was probably because it was not easy to attack, which allowed them to escape. Just when they thought that they had found the flaw of Tang's new weapon, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan reloaded and pulled the triggers at the chickens that had just escaped. When the barley moved slightly, there would be a gunshot, and then the moving area would become quiet. When a chicken poked its head out from a certain place, it would also be killed with a gunshot. No matter what the remaining chickens did, as long as they appeared in the field of vision, they were destined to not be able to escape. Only when the cowardly chicken hid in a certain place and didn't show its head again did the hunt come to an end. I'm getting old. I haven't practiced for a long time. There were many opportunities to kill 2 with 1 shot, but I actually missed it, Zhang Xiaobao said to Zhu Zan and Mo Jilian, who had not fired a single shot. Mo Jilian and Zhu Zan were numb with fear. They knew that it was an invitation to hunt, but it was actually a threat. They wanted to let them know that if Tang really wanted to attack the Turks and Tibetans, these 2 places would not be able to resist at all. With a team of 1,000 people, and with the accuracy of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, even if the Turks and Tibetans worked together, they would not be able to defeat them. Zhu Zan and Mo Jilian, why don't you 2 try? Zhang Xiaobao did not even use honorifics when addressing the leaders of the 2 countries. Strength determined everything. Mo Jilian swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva, but still felt that his throat was dry. He nodded, raised the gun in his hand, found a target, and pulled the trigger. After shooting, he picked up the binoculars and found that he did not know where to shoot. When he was about to fire a second shot, he realized that his gun was different from the one used by Zhang Xiaobao and Mo Jilian. He used that thing called bullets that needed to be reloaded after each shot, but Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan could shoot continuously. Thinking about the sharpness of this weapon and thinking about Zhang Xiaobao and Mo Jilian's abilities, Mo Jilian really wanted to reload a bullet and shoot at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's heads. After Mo Jilian and Zhu Zan fired a few shots with inexplicable thoughts, they had different expressions. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao asked his people to put away the guns and smiled at Zhu Zan and Mo Jilian. Tomorrow, there will be officials from the Ministry of Rights coming to the capital to discuss with your people about the etiquette when entering the capital. His Majesty heard that you two could come and was very happy. He is preparing to reward you too. Zhu Zan and Mo Jilian's originally ugly expressions became worse. No wonder they wanted to hunt today. They wanted to confirm their identities. It seemed that Li Longji did not intend to be on the same level as them. Chapter 821. After accompanying the two leaders of Tubo and Tujue for a hunting game, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's reception work was considered done. The imperial court sent officials and guards from the Ministry of Rights. Zhu Zhenchide and Mo Jilian also sent people to contact them. After eating a big meal between the clouds and the water, they got on the carriage and headed towards the capital. Xiao Bei accompanied them all the way to the border between Sanshui County and Huayuan County. He opened his arms and watched the team leave. He looked at the sky and saw that the sky was high and the clouds were light. He seemed to have a melancholy feeling and murmured, "Let's go, let's go. Don't always be in a hurry. And there is no banquet that lasts forever. When one group leaves, I hope there will be another." Xiao Yuan also looked at him. He didn't know that Xiao Bei's melancholy was not because of parting, but because with Zhu Zhenchide entering the capital, there was no need for Xiao Bei here. Xiao Bei went from the Minister of Foreign Affairs to a member of the CPPCC. He was obviously not used to it. He thought that Xiao Bei didn't want to be separated from Princess Jincheng. So he advised, "Life is like the floating clouds. There is no route. Wherever the wind blows, the clouds will fly there. But no matter what, the sky has left traces of the clouds and the sound of the wind. Look at it lightly. Perhaps parting is the beginning of reunion. That is not sentimental. Just like a red maple leaf, it is ripe. Don't talk nonsense in front of me. It's annoying. If I leave like this, I will start playing with a bunch of kids again. No one will listen to me anymore. I have decided that I will find my own happiness. I will immediately hold a meeting to discuss the recent work and censor matters. You organize it." Xiao Bei really thought it through. He wanted to make full use of the team's advantages and start a new chapter. Xiao Yuan was obviously still worried about the wind and clouds and didn't understand Xiao Bei's meaning. Seeing Xiao Bei staring at him, he just needed to express his opinion. "I agree with Xiao Bei's suggestion. Should the censors meeting continue to target the people who eat more? The role of the tripping rope should be played more. Are you stupid? What do you mean by eating more? This is the internal affairs of the Great Tang, and we shouldn't keep looking into the distance. There are also problems that need to be solved around us. Sitting in the position of imperial censor, we have to play a corresponding role and think of a way to get on the road earlier. Sanshui County won't be able to find fault with us." Xiao Bei's mental fortitude was not bad. He quickly found a way to leave the CPPCC and prepared to enter the Discipline Inspection Commission. His authority would eventually return. Xiao Yuan, who was slower to react, was stunned for a moment. It was not easy for him to understand the leader's intention. His eyes lit up and he excitedly pulled Xiao Bei. "Who do you want to impeach? Do you have a target? You have to find the target yourself. Stupid, it's time for the meeting. You're in charge of informing the others." Xiao Bei clasped his hands behind his back, turned around, and slowly moved away like a cloud in the sky. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't have the slightest attachment to Zhu Zan. The two of them didn't want to waste any more energy on such a boring reception. At this time, the two of them were still on the mountain. Zhang Xiaobao broke off a branch from somewhere and put it in his mouth and chewed hard, trying to bite out the fiber of the branch that was not wet in the first place. Wang Wan, on the other hand, had a gloomy face. looking at the 200 members of the protection team who had participated in the hunting operation. The 200 people clearly felt a kind of oppression before the storm. 200 people, 1,000 chickens, used more than 6,000 bullets, and nearly 200 of them were shot down by Zhang Xiaobao and me. Before coming here, I wrote a letter to ask you to practice hard. And this is what you've done? You used the best guns, and I asked you to choose the most suitable gun for you. Do you know the consequences of killing an opponent with 7 bullets? Wang Wan's face was about to drip water. She questioned the 200 people who were feeling very satisfied just a moment ago. Little girl, in the past training, it was always 200 steps. This time, it suddenly became 300 steps. It's a little far, so, a person in the team stood up and explained to Wang Wan in a low voice. Just as he said this, Wang Wan suddenly took off the gun on her back and raised her hand to knock down a mountain civet that was watching the show more than 400 steps away. Is 300 steps very far? Your guns are specially made, and the effective range is 420 to 450 meters. I trained you as snipers to shoot moving targets, but you actually need 7 bullets to kill an enemy. 7 bullets. 7 bullets. Do you know the consequences of fighting against a real enemy? Wang Wan was even angrier when she thought of this number. She had always wanted to train the best snipers, but these 200 people were really disappointing. With this kind of accuracy, if it were her and Zhang Xiaobao, they would have been killed long ago. Which real sniper would leave 7 bullets for the opponent to adjust? Will the enemy be released? The person who came out to explain whispered. Yes, this is not your fault. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao spoke. He waved his hand to dismiss the team, spat out the stick that was bitten into fiber in his mouth, and came to Wang Wan's side and said, "Shooting also requires talent. If everyone can become a sniper, the sniper selection will not be so strict. Find more people and slowly choose." 300 steps is not considered a sniper. Ordinary people should have practiced it and strengthened the training. What about Xiaobei? I saw that she was not in a good mood when she left. Wang Wan did not continue to force them. Suddenly, she remembered Xiaobei, who accompanied Princess Jinsheng when she left. At this moment, a messenger hurriedly ran up from the foot of the mountain to deliver the news. "Young master, young lady Xiaobei asked me to inform the 2 of you that they have left for Huayuan. They said that they will leave 2 days early and will wait for the 2 of you there." Chapter 822. Happy birthday to little Chenspot Bamboo. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were not worried that something would happen to Xiaobei and the others. Once they returned to the capital of Tang, they would be safe. They could send a few officials to keep an eye on them. Even if they ran to Yaozhou, it would not be a problem. The 2 of them were now thinking about how to make Tubo and Tujua surrender during the sword meet on Mount Hua, so that Li Longji could find a new target when he was ready to enjoy a peaceful life. Just as they were planning, Kutuyu came in person with a group of generals in the north of Hebei province. It seemed that he could not hold back anymore. He had no soldiers and no one to use when he returned. His position was in danger. However, he suddenly became much more well-behaved. He was no longer the same person he was when he threatened Li Longji. With a respectful attitude, he asked Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, Provincial Governor Zhang, Adjunct Officer Wang, "When can we return to our homeland?" The generals behind him also had the same thought. They had also received news from their homeland that the population was almost gone by Tang. They did not know how much land would be deserted in the spring next year. In addition, the heads of the commanderies took the initiative to pay rent today. It was obvious that they would never be able to regain their original position. Everything sounded unbelievable. If possible, they wanted to force Zhang Xiaobao and Zhang Xiaobao to return the people. It was these 2 people who were looked down upon when they first arrived at Jili State that facilitated all of this. It was simply unbelievable, to say it out loud. Zhang Xiaobao was no longer worried that Kutuyu would rebel. According to the history that Wang Wan told, Kutuyu defected to Tujua in the end, which made Li Longji unable to do anything. But he and Wang Wan came. Times had changed. Tu Jue no longer had the ability to compete with Tang. After hearing Kutuyu's words and looking at the expressions of the generals, Zhang Xiaobao showed a warm smile and said to Kutuyu kindly, "General Kutuyu, haven't you returned to your homeland? Is the great Tang not your homeland? Yesterday, someone from the capital came and said that His Majesty wants all the generals to stay in the capital for the new year." Wang Wan chimed in, "That's right. His Majesty's decree has repeatedly emphasized that we should keep all of you here. The soldiers who have returned early will also be properly settled. They have been dispersed into the military camps around Jiangxi province so that the soldiers can have a peaceful new year. You can ask for more details." But Tuyukai didn't believe that Li Longji would consider this problem. Thinking about it, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were just spouting nonsense again. But since the two of them said it, Li Longji would definitely admit it. Seeing that he couldn't go back, he rolled his eyes and compromised. "Since that's the case, I'll stay in the capital and watch the new year. After watching the hunt yesterday, my heart itches. I wonder if I can take out a few thousand spears to show my disappointing soldiers?" The eyes of the other generals also lit up, and they made this request. To be honest, it takes a lot of effort to make a spear. So far, only 300 have been made. There are another 100 in the capital. If you want them, it's really difficult. How about this? Each of the generals can take 5 spears to study. After the workshop makes more, we'll definitely satisfy all of your requests. Zhang Xiaobao showed an awkward expression and tactfully refused the lion's offer. But Tuyu's eyes were fixed on Zhang Xiaobao when he was talking, wanting to see if Zhang Xiaobao was telling the truth. Naturally, he was very disappointed. Zhang Xiaobao's expression was very sincere. After thinking about it, he felt that if he took the spear apart, he should be able to know if it was difficult to make a spear. But Tuyu finally nodded and agreed. After sending everyone away, Wang Wan looked at the time and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "The letters have been sent to Cherries, Pomegranate, and other people in the inner courtyard. They'll probably be back in Sanshui County in a few days. They've all become old ladies. This time, the wedding must be grand. Yes, they've all grown up. We've also grown up. We don't want to continue being their happiness. How many people want to get married before the new year? Previously, there were 31 couples. I guess people further away will be willing to participate after hearing about it. This heart can finally settle down." Zhang Xiaobao looked at Wang Wan and found that the two of them had unknowingly grown up. The wedding of Song Jinggong and others couldn't continue to be delayed. Taking advantage of a time, they should hold it together. It could be considered as a show of affection. Wang Wan nodded and said, "Do you think Kutuyu will be convinced?" "No, if it were me, I wouldn't either. I have to carefully hide my ambition and then find a way to develop it bit by bit. For example, I have to endure hardships and wait for courage. But so what? He only has an army of 10,000, and many of them have been corrupted and roped in by us. Even if Song Mo Commandery allows him to go back, he won't be able to make any waves. There are many people of the Tang Empire there. After all, he's an outsider and can't rope in people of the Tang Empire. I reckon that he's only interested in the long spear. Even if we give him the blueprint, he won't be able to use it. After a few years, he'll find a craftsman to research it. By then, our weapons will have been replaced. Besides, I don't plan on giving him this opportunity." Zhang Xiaobao gulped down a mouthful of water to moisten his throat. Speaking of the poor Kutuyu, he thought of the expressions of the Tubo and Turks at the sword meet of Mount Hua. A few days passed quickly. Cherries and others who were willing to participate in the mass wedding rushed to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang's place in Zhuangzi. Just as Zhang Xiaobao said, those who knew the news later also had to participate. There were a total of 47 couples. To be more auspicious, the farmers in Zhuangzi also put together a couple, making it a total of 48 couples. The lively wedding lasted for 2 days. The newlyweds finally completed a major event in their lives with the blessings of the crowd. In the entire Sanshui County, all the local people who could come came. They wrapped banknotes in red paper and gave them to the newlyweds as wedding money. The amount was not big, but the people who Song Jinggong came in contact with gave more expensive gifts. Song Jinggong did not keep it for himself, but equally distributed it to the 48 newlyweds, making everyone a small fortune. Some people did not come back to participate in the lively wedding. After hearing about it, they sent people back to send their blessings. These people were Xiao Bei and the others from the children's regiment. They had been looking for something to do for the past few days. They had left traces in Huaiyuan County, Sanyuan County, and Fuping County, but they did not find any problems. They investigated openly and secretly. The local people's evaluation of the government was only one word: good. When Xiao Bei found Yi Yiwei, who was an official here, and asked if there were any officials who were corrupt, bribed, or did not do anything, he received a very regretful answer. No, not a single one. As long as the officials here did anything wrong, they would be exposed immediately. They could not hide it even if they wanted to. Today, Yi Yiwei was no longer just a military supervisor and a farmer in Yao Province. He had been promoted to the position of provincial governor. Learning from his time in Baoxin Province, he had set up a financial disclosure system. Every coin was spent clearly, and the officials in the province could not interfere. I don't believe that there is no official who needs to be dealt with. Continue looking. Xiao Bei was very dissatisfied with the results of the past few days. He looked at the 100 children's regiment guards behind him. All of them looked listless. He was determined to find an official to deal with. Xiao Yuan was also listless. He was afraid of the cold. The arrival of winter made him feel very uncomfortable. He wore thick and heavy clothes. Seeing that Xiao Bei was still in high spirits, he gave an idea in order to rest early. Then don't look in Yaozhou. If you can't find Yaozhou, go elsewhere. Yes, go elsewhere. Xiao Yuan, I found that you are still a little useful. Keep it up. When you grow up, my heart might soften and I might really marry you. Xiao Bei praised Xiao Yuan. Then he reorganized the team and headed in the direction of Tongzhou. After passing Yaozhou and entering Tongzhou, the first place they arrived at was Xiaogong County. Xiao Bei and the others, who were used to the prosperity of Yaozhou, found that they seemed to have entered another world when they came to Xiaogong. The county seat of Xiaogong County was so dilapidated that there were almost no city walls. Not to mention, there were countless people coming and going in Yaozhou. The two places were like heaven and earth. Xiao Bei's intuition told him that he could find the opportunity he was looking for in this county. Spread out and act. Pay attention to keeping in touch. Disguise yourselves and inquire about information. Xiao Bei gave the order. Xiao Hai didn't care about other things at all. When he heard his sister say that it was time to act, he took his people to find an inn to stay and continued to study his math problems. Xiaozhu asked someone to bring her a drawing board and began to look for a place to draw. Now, she wanted to draw as much of the beautiful scenery as possible everywhere she went. It was the kind of realistic kind that could be kept as a memento. Xiao Yuan originally wanted to leave to do his own things, but was stopped by Xiao Bei. You have to accompany me to explore. From now on, you are my brother and I am your sister. Do you understand? Cousin. I'm your brother, your cousin. I wonder where you're going to start from. Xiao Yuan dispelled the idea of looking for ancient books to read here and was ready to accompany Xiao Bei. Anyway, it was just a game and he didn't expect to encounter anything. Danan, Xiaonan, and the others also found their own things to do. A few people from the children's group stayed, and Xiao Bei's exploration team was formed. When children visit, they naturally look for children. If we look for adults, they won't pay attention to us. Change your clothes and come with me. Xiao Bei was determined to be a detective for once. She changed into ordinary clothes for herself and the 6 children behind her, hid her valuables, and began this operation. To find the children, Xiao Bei decided to go to the school to take a look. There should be a lot of children there. When the time came, she would ask if there were any corrupt officials there. It would be easier for her to make a move. Xiao Yuan couldn't care less about his tiredness. He decided that even if there were no corrupt officials, he would find a way to create some trouble for Xiaobei to enjoy so that they could go back earlier. The people who were equally tired were the people sent by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan to protect Xiaobei. They had been following behind the children's group to prevent them from discovering them. They also had to ensure that they could deal with any danger in time. Seeing that Xiaobei was done with her disguise, this group of people knew that they had something to do. After stopping an adult, Xiaobei sweetly asked for the location of the school. After thanking him, she led her team to the school. The school of Xiaogong County was located in the northeast corner of the county. The place was not small. When they arrived outside the school, Xiaobei first looked around the school. There was a very large yard surrounded by a fence made of branches. Through the gaps, one could see the layout inside. The first thing that came into view was the playground. There was a large lawn used for football. There was also a horizontal bar and a parallel bar. It looked good. It should be class time at this time. There were not many people on the playground, only about 40 children. They were playing games with an adult. It was a physical education class. A gust of north wind blew. Xiao Yuan shivered, rubbed his hands, and said to Xiaobei, looking at the school, "I know that the officials in this county are not bad. Why don't we take a break first and send people out to inquire? Why didn't I notice that the school is good? Is it better than the schools in Sanshui County? What's the big deal about having a playground? Maybe the officials here will embezzle the food prepared for the children. When they are done with class, we can sneak in and take a look. I have the foresight, don't I?" Xiaobei did not plan to give up like this. When he said to Xiao Yuan, he deliberately touched his clothes. They were wearing ordinary clothes, the uniform of school children. Nowadays, clothes were worthless. Ever since silk was no longer used as a currency, its price had dropped again and again. If it were not for Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who collected a lot of silk and transported it to other places to exchange for other things, no one would be willing to continue growing silk plants. Xiao Yuan was frozen for a while. Finally, the bell signaling the end of class rang. A group of children ran out shouting and playing all kinds of games on the playground. Xiaobei walked in through the small door of the school. No one stopped them. The clothes they wore showed their identity. After looking around for a while, Xiaobei walked over to a few girls who were squatting by the side of the field. Seeing that the girls were drawing circles with sticks, he joined in. The girls had never seen Xiaobei before, so they weren't surprised. They thought that he was from another class. Xiaobei pondered and nudged the girl beside him. He asked, "Today's food is not bad, right?" "It's not bad for me." The girl who was nudged nodded. "Okay, it's delicious. You can't eat it at home. Then what do you like to eat?" Xiaobei asked skillfully. "A cake with sesame seeds on it. It's soft, sweet, and brown." The girl licked her sweet lips, as if she was still reminiscing about the taste. Me too." Xiaobei looked very regretful. He thought that the school would embezzle the students' food. He did not expect that the food they gave was not bad. It was actually a cake. It seemed that the county officials had no problem. He asked unwillingly, "Then what do you like to eat for breakfast?" "Today, we ate meat buns and soy milk. The milk was cut off yesterday, so we could only use soy milk to make up for it. The person in charge said that there will be milk again tomorrow. There are also salted vegetables. The shrimp oil on them tastes good." The girl did not have any defensive thoughts. She answered Xiaobei's question. Xiaobei felt regretful again. Soy milk was indeed not as good as milk, but this could not be a conviction. There was no such thing as no milk. Other than a few good places, there were indeed situations where the milk was cut off. He could not force it. The meat buns indicated that the school's food was not bad. After thinking for a while, Xiaobei asked again, "Who are the bad guys here? I can't remember the officials." The girl shook her head this time. Just as Xiaobei was feeling regretful, she suddenly thought of something and said, "I'm not sure here. My village's cripple Wang is a bad guy. He pulled all the cows in the village to his house. I heard that he wanted to secretly drink milk. He is the village chief, so no one dares to say anything." Xiao Bei was delighted. What village is that? Cattle herding village. The county officials often go there. I heard that they're doing bad things together with Cripple Wang. The girl had an indignant expression. Cattle herding village. Good name. It's really a good name. Xiao Bei felt that he had finally obtained useful information. He stood up happily and walked around a few more times before quietly leaving. Did you get anything? Xiao Yuan, who had also followed him out, asked with concern. Yes, I got a lot. First of all, this school is not good. We can't enter and leave as we wish. What if a child runs out and gets lost? Xiao Bei, who had come out in a relaxed manner, voiced his opinion. Xiao Yuan, however, did not agree. Whose child would run out? If there is no one in class, points will be deducted. If points are deducted, there will be less rewards. This does not count. There are other rewards as well. Let's go. Follow me to the cow herding village. Find someone to inquire about the location. Our job is here. Xiao Bei no longer cared about the school. He happily pulled Xiao Yuan to meet up with the others. When the wind blew, small snowflakes spun and fell. When they touched the houses and the ground, they immediately melted, adding a trace of coldness and moisture to the air. In the capital, Li Longji, who had finished the court meeting and returned to the courtyard of Xingqing Palace, stood in front of a pile of models. The smile on his face did not disappear. Gao Lisher stood by the side. Seeing that the emperor was in a good mood, he thought of the news that had just been sent back. He said, Your Majesty, this time when the people from Jiangnan East went overseas, they brought back a lot of good things. Do you want the imperial court to form a large fleet to go over? Although it is a little far. Li Longji was indeed happy. Zhu Zan and Mo Jilian had entered the capital and were ready to be summoned at any time. The matter of etiquette had been discussed. The two of them used the etiquette of a subject and kowtowed to him. This was all thanks to Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. According to the person who sent back the news, the two of them were scared silly during the hunting activity that day. They were very obedient when discussing etiquette. This was not an easy thing to do. After the sword meet on Mount Hua, Tubo and Turkic would officially become one or several provinces of Great Tang. In addition to the news from Luzhou, the people from Jiangnan East had found a large piece of fertile land. There were many plants and animals that had never been seen before. They were sending them to the capital and would arrive in 2 days. For a time, Luzhou's people were eager to go out to sea. If they went out to sea again, they would bring along experts to search for ores. Perhaps they could find more ores and bring them back. That would solve many of Great Tang's problems. With so many things happening together, it was difficult for him not to be happy. He nodded happily. The imperial court can send people to follow Luzhou's fleet. One of them is to check out the place, and the other is to protect the merchants. I'll leave this matter to you. Understood. Gao Lisher made a note of this and planned to send people there after the new year. He understood the emperor's intention. There was another reason for sending soldiers there. If they really found good ores, they had to keep a close eye on them. They could not allow the merchants to forge weapons in private. After solving this matter, Li Longji asked Gao Lisher, Did Xiao Bao and Cuckoo say when they'll be back? I haven't seen them for a long time. I miss them. I know. Xiao Bao sent a letter saying that after Mo Jilian and the others meet Your Majesty, they will return to Mount Hua and wait there. After the trip to Mount Hua, they will return to the capital. Zhang Zhong will also return to the capital. He will be an official in the capital next year. Gao Lisher also missed Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. He thought about it from the perspective of family. He also knew that the emperor had solved a huge problem because of what Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan did. Therefore, he could not help but think that the two of them were too powerful. No matter where they went, they could create a big problem. Did they mention what benefits they want? Li Longji asked again. When he thought about this matter, he felt depressed. It was supposed to be a condition of exchange, but Zhang Xiaobao was not in a hurry to say it. It turned out that he wanted to compensate Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan for their losses in Jili province and give them a reward for stabilizing the situation there. In the end, the two of them went to Tubo and found the leaders of Tubo and Tudua. At the same time, they completely weakened the power of the commanderies in northern Hebei province. Merits came one after another. It was not easy to reward them. Could it be that when there were no rewards, they could learn from their predecessors and kill the two of them? Obviously, that was not possible. In the past, they did not know that the outside world was so big. There were many places that they had never heard of before. Who knew if they would encounter a more powerful country? When the time came, both sides would discover each other and fight. They hoped that in such a situation, the two of them would continue to contribute. When Li Longji thought of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, he had a headache again. Without waiting for Gao Lishir to reply, he said, "Write a letter to them and tell them that they can't be rewarded with money, but they can be promoted." Gao Lishir nodded again and said, "Your Majesty, Xiaobao wrote a letter to me and mentioned this matter. He said that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan should be exempted from paying tax for 2 years. If they don't pay tax for 2 years, the loss can be made up for." In fact, Gao Lishir did not say anything. In the letter, he not only wrote that the loss could be made up for, but also the gains of this operation. Even if the imperial court did not compensate, there was no loss. In the future, because of this operation, there would be more income. Of course, he could not tell this to the emperor. His godson had to go back and forth, so it was quite tiring. Now that the imperial court's finances were not tight, there was no need to count on Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan to pay the tax. Oh, Li Longji agreed, but his eyebrows did not relax. He said to Gao Lishir, "The 2 years of tax exemption is their loss in the north of Hebei province. At the same time, they solved the threats in 3 places. I still have to give them a reward. You can't generalize." Gao Lishir nodded and replied, "Your Majesty, Xiaobao did make a request, but I thought it was too far away, so I didn't mention it. Xiaobao once said that when they do business with other distant places in the future, Your Majesty will allow them to use the flag of Tang Empire." How far away? Li Longji was curious. Very far away, even farther than the place where Buddhism came from. It's really thousands of mountains and rivers. He said that using the flag of Tang Empire can show the power of Tang Empire. Gao Lishir pointed to the west. Of course, even if I don't agree, they can use the flag to go out. In Tubo, didn't they use my name to say something like the sword meet on Mount Hua? I didn't pursue them, otherwise, even if they had a few heads, it wouldn't be enough to cut off. Li Longji casually brushed aside the matter of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan using his name to invite Ancestor Cheetah and Zuzan, so that when the two of them returned, there wouldn't be anyone who couldn't stand to confront and impeach them. What if the two of them got angry and became lazy in the future? While the relevant personnel of Tang Empire were happy, some people were more distressed. Suddenly, they got in touch with the people of Song Mo's Commander-in-Chief's mansion. News kept coming back and forth, but the more they knew, the sadder they felt. Song Mo's Commander-in-Chief's mansion had no soldiers available, and all of them had been transferred away. 4 or 5 out of 10 people had also left. Those who had some skills had gone to find their own happiness. Li Xiaogu couldn't grasp the situation in the Commander-in-Chief's mansion at all. He had to listen to Li Sun for everything. Who asked Li Sun to take 10,000 elite soldiers to force him. Oh, not force, but peacekeeping. If he wasn't careful, it would be easy to take down the entire Commander-in-Chief's mansion. In fact, it was almost done. The news sent said that the remaining people who hadn't left didn't stay voluntarily. The Tang Empire needed time to settle them down. After settling them down, they would go to the Commander-in-Chief's mansion to pick people. The people were waiting. His reputation had been deliberately forgotten by the people during this period of time, and he couldn't go back to the past. As he thought of this, he suddenly sighed. His bleak figure left behind an erratic trail on the ground under the hazy sunlight. He closed his eyes and wanted to forget the unhappy things, but he couldn't do it. He waved his hand at the person who set up the target in front of him. After that person left, he raised the gun in his hand. After aiming for a few breaths, he pulled the trigger. With a bang, he waited for the person on the other side to report the result. 3 points. The voice came from 100 steps away. It's really not easy to use. Kuyu muttered. He pulled out the cartridge, pushed in another bullet, and aimed again. General, take a rest. You've already fired 60 bullets. When you wake up tomorrow morning, your arm will hurt. Kuyu's aide beside him advised him in a low voice. After firing this round, have you asked someone to open it and check it? Can it be made? Kuyu continued to aim until he felt that it was enough. Then he fired the bullet in the gun. He put down the gun, rubbed his numb arm, and asked the aide. The aide took the gun and answered, "Yes, and I also asked." They said that the gun can be made, but the thing called spring inside is not easy to make. It's troublesome to smelt it, and we don't know how to make bullets. We opened it. There should be something similar to firecrackers in it, but it's more powerful. As for the white stack, as long as it's touched by a little force, it will burn. We don't know how to make it. If we can solve these 2 problems, we can produce a lot of guns ourselves. Solve? I want to solve it too. If it was in the past, I would have asked Li Longji for a marriage alliance, and the craftsman I brought with me should be able to make it. But now, Great Tang is not allowing any good technology to be leaked. I don't think I can find someone who can make guns, and Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan won't tell me. I heard that it was the 2 of them who suggested to Li Longji to keep the technology a secret. It's going to be tough. The days in the Commander-in-Chief's manor are going to be tough. Kuyu didn't have any confidence. Great Tang's weapons were getting more and more powerful, and there was also the clairvoyance that could see very far. If Li Longji wanted to use force on someone, the other party wouldn't be able to retaliate. It was no longer like before. When he was in a bad mood, he would throw a tantrum with Great Tang, and even directly send out troops. Li Longji would comfort him. Now, if he dared to do that, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan would flatten the Commander-in-Chief's manor without Li Longji doing anything. The advisor was also very helpless. Seeing that Kuyu was in a bad mood, he hesitated for a moment and said what was on his mind. General, now that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan want to use a soft knife to stab people, when the people in the Commander-in-Chief's manor leave, where will we find a foothold? We have to think of a complete solution. What solution? What solution can there be? That day on the ship, when Zhang Xiaobao looked for me, he made it very clear. This is called an open conspiracy. Even if I know the consequences, I can't change it. As long as I make a move, the first one to suffer will be me. The sooner I make a move, the greater the loss I will suffer. Ah, how frustrating. I can't do anything to be threatened by a little brat. Let's wait and see. Let's see what will happen on Mount Hua. It will be best if we can force the Tubo and Turkic people into a corner. As long as they send out troops, we will still have a chance. But when he spoke, he seemed to be very agitated. After he finished speaking, he felt a little better. He glanced at the gun again and shook his head. Step by step, he moved back to his room and lay down on the couch. He seemed to be asleep, but was not asleep. Xiao Bei walked for a long time and finally came out of the mountains. He saw the legendary cattle-herding village in front of him. He gasped for breath for a while and said with a grin, "When I asked that person for directions, what did he say?" He said, "Not far." I understand now. He meant to fly. If we fly in a straight line, it won't be far. If we walk, we will have to walk back and forth. It's going to be dark soon. We can't go back today. Xiao Yuan was also tired and did not have any strength. At the same time, he was not cold. After walking for so long, his body was drenched in sweat. He drank 2 mouthfuls of water and said worriedly, "Why don't we enter the village tomorrow? What if there are bad people in the village who want to harm us at night? Don't be afraid. We have weapons. When the time comes, we can find a courtyard and reserve it. No one is allowed to enter. Let's not talk about investigating that cripple Wang. I don't believe that they will deal with a group of foreign children. Let's go. If we stay in the mountains for a night in such cold weather, we will probably freeze to death. If we encounter a beast, we will encounter a beast." Xiao Bei thought for a while and rejected Xiao Yuan's suggestion. He led the group into the village. Looking at the nearby village, they walked for another half an hour before arriving. There were already people in the village looking curiously at Xiao Bei and his group. Usually, there would not be so many children coming together. They were wondering about the identity of Xiao Bei and his group. "Uncle, are there any good courtyards in the village? We can stay here for a night. We will pay. We will leave tomorrow." Xiao Bei saw a person standing at the entrance of the village and walked forward to ask. When the person standing at the entrance of the village saw Xiao Bei, he was attracted by Xiao Bei's cute appearance. It seemed that any normal person would like Xiao Bei's appearance. He nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, yes." Which family's child sneaked out? "Come with me. Even if there is no place, I will make one for you. You haven't eaten yet, right? It just so happens that everyone in the village is cooking. I will ask them to cook more later. Eat first, and then have a good rest." After this person finished speaking, he did not directly ask about the identity of Xiao Bei and his group. He was probably waiting for Xiao Bei to have a good rest before asking. He turned around and led the way, but when he walked, he was limping. When Xiao Bei and his group saw the way this person walked, they looked at each other and were shocked at the same time. They wondered if this person was that cripple Wang Muramesa. What if he wanted to harm them? They were here to investigate him. "Don't be afraid. He doesn't know that we are here to investigate him," Xiao Bei whispered to the person beside him. He gave himself courage and followed the person in front of him into the village. They originally thought that this was a very poor village, but when they entered, they found that the life in this village was not bad. They could hear the barking of dogs and the sound of poultry. When they passed by a family, they saw 2 pigs that had somehow escaped from their pens and were being chased around in the courtyard by the family. The person scolded the pigs as he chased them. When he saw Xiao Bei and a large group of children, he stopped what he was doing and looked at them curiously. In order to get help at the critical moment, Xiao Bei gave this person a sweet smile. They continued to follow the person in front of them. After walking for more than 100 steps, they finally saw a large courtyard in front of them. It was empty, and the chimney on the house was not smoking. It seemed that no one lived there. "Don't be afraid. This is not a haunted house. The original family has moved out and moved to the school in the county to cook for the children. I am the village chief of this village. In a while, I will ask someone to come and clean this place. There are so many children, and you can't squeeze in. I will also ask some of the families in the village to cook some good dishes for you. Oh, my surname is Wang." The person leading the way introduced them, and then smiled at Xiao Bei and the others. The more he looked at them, the more he liked them. The more Xiao Bei listened, the more scared he became. It was indeed this person. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. He smiled at Wang Murazhang and said, "Uncle Wang, thank you. We are going up the mountain to play. After we eat, we will pay. I think that the adults will come later. We ran a little faster. Hee hee. You don't have to pay. The life in the village is not bad. Since there is a way to raise animals, it is not as difficult as before. Wait for me to call for people." Wang Murazhang's eyes narrowed even more. He looked at the sky and began to shout at the top of his voice. Sure enough, many people came out of the village. After hearing Wang Murazhang's introduction, they looked at Xiao Bei and the group of cute children. Each family led a few children, and soon Xiao Bei and the others were led away. Xiao Bei and the others chose the person who looked the most like a good person to follow, hoping that he could help at a critical moment. Just as the group of children was assigned to their families, 12 adults came to the village. These 12 people directly found Wang Murazhang, revealed their identities, and found a place to stay in the village. Only then did Wang Murazhang know which family the cutest child was from. He praised her again and again. No wonder she was so sensible. She turned out to be a little girl from the Zhang family in Sanshui County. That was right. He hurriedly went door to door and told them to cook better food. Don't be stingy. in case the children of rich families were not used to the food. After the meal, Xiao Bei and the others took a bath in a large wooden bucket in each of their rooms. After a tiring day, they no longer had the mood to think about the interrogation. They ran to their beds early in the morning and covered their heads with the clean bedding that other people had given them. Then they fell asleep. Early the next morning, when Xiao Bei and the others woke up, they realized that they did not arrange for anyone to keep watch last night. They were scared. After breakfast, Xiao Bei and the group of children gathered again in the courtyard where no one lived. They began to discuss how to investigate the case. I think we should beat around the bush and find a seemingly honest family to ask about Cripple Wong. But even if we ask, we can't immediately arrest him. It's best to send someone with good skills to Cripple Wong's house to see what exactly he is doing with the cow. Xiao Yuan yawned, rubbed his face with his hands, and proposed his idea. Okay, then we'll do it together. A few people will go to Cripple Wong's house to take a look. Be careful, don't get bitten by the dog. Safety first. I'll go and scout for information. We'll split into 2 groups and act. Xiao Bei was very excited. The children's regiment was finally going to show its prowess. This was a big deal. According to the plan, they would split into 2 groups. The rest of the people would wait in the courtyard. Xiao Bei would bring 2 people to the house where she stayed last night. She felt that the house was not bad. The other group would be made up of 5 people with the best skills. Usually, when they were together, these 5 people would climb trees to fish and fish in the water. They were all experts and could be considered the most elite members of the children's regiment. When it came to the critical moment of using an army for a moment, Xiao Bei and the others felt that they should send out the elites to do it and let Cripple Wong experience it. Aunt Wong, I'm here. Xiao Bei led the 2 people to the place where they ate and rested last night and said to Aunt Wong, who was squatting in the courtyard and eating pig food, it's Xiao Bei. It's cold outside. Come in quickly. Are you leaving today? Aunt Wong seemed very happy. She rubbed her hands on her body and beckoned Xiao Bei into the house. Xiao Bei shook her head sensibly. Aunt Wong, you go ahead with your work. I'll just watch. I won't go in. It's not cold outside. I'm wearing a lot. Aunt Wong responded and continued to work. Xiao Bei looked at Aunt Wong and thought for a while. She said, Aunt Wong, can this food be fed to cows? No, it's only for pigs. Cows can't eat such miscellaneous things. Before winter, we already prepared food for cows. Aunt Wong smiled and shook her head. Oh, you prepared food for cows? That's good. Aunt Wong, where's the cow? I haven't seen it. Xiao Bei followed the topic and asked. The cow is at the village chief's house. Don't worry. If you want to see the cow, I'll take you to the village chief's house. Aunt Wong didn't expect Xiao Bei to be trying to trick her. Xiao Bei nodded obediently. Okay, thank you, Aunt Wong. Aunt, that if the cow is at the village chief's house, won't it lose weight? Won't it die? Won't the milk it produces be drunk? How can it lose weight? The village chief is an expert at raising cows, so it won't die. If it's not sick, it won't die easily. Milk can only be obtained after it raises the cubs. Without cubs, there won't be any milk. Wait, I'll prepare it now. I'll take you to see it. Aunt Wong's hands moved faster. She smiled and explained to Xiao Bei. Chapter 823. With endless doubts and melancholy in their hearts, more than 100 children came to the village head's house. They saw the big courtyard behind the village head's house, and the cows living happily in the courtyard. The mistake brought by the information made the little guys fall into an extremely low self-confidence. The 5 elite members, who had climbed into the courtyard with great difficulty, were so scared by the dogs that they didn't dare to move. They stood there with pursed lips, waiting for the punishment that was about to come. We ran so far for nothing, and we actually made a mistake. If I had known, I would have stayed in Sanshui County and wasted so much effort to come here. I'm as tired as a calf. It's not worth it at all. After Xiao Yuan lost her excitement, she suddenly found that the weather was getting colder. She hugged her arms tightly and muttered in a low voice. Little Hai was still as calm as before. Xiao Zhu very naturally took down the drawing board she was carrying on her back and began to look for inspiration among the herd of cows. The pair of twins, Big Man and Little Man, tacitly placed a flower in the corner that had not withered for some reason in the winter. Zhang Chang, Zhang Gang, and Zhang Fang began to talk in a low voice, comparing the difference between the mountain in cattle herding village and the mountain in their home. Xiao Bei, the initiator of the incident, felt a great deal of pressure. She felt that she had to bear all the responsibility for the carelessness of the plan and the failure of the operation. Do I have to pay for the expenses as well? Xiao Bei looked at Wang Xunjing's warm smile and the harmonious scene when the cows huddled together. She always felt that 100 guards were looking at her from the corner of her eyes. Wang Xunjing already knew why Xiao Bei and the others had come here, so he was not angry at all. He looked at the group of children with eyes full of kindness and began to introduce the experience of raising cows to Xiao Bei and the others, combining the methods of the Zhang family and the local environment. In only 3 years, the village had more than 20 calves, and none of the older ones had died unexpectedly. When rearing cows in winter, they had to pay attention to fatten up and nourish their bodies. They also had to pay attention to which aspects to keep the cowshed warm before the beginning of spring. He spoke in detail, and in his words, he always inadvertently praised the technical support provided by the Zhang family and the Wang family to the cattle industry in the village. Xiao Bei blinked and listened attentively, as if he wanted to minimize the consequences of a wrong plan. At noon, more than 100 children ate chicken stewed with mushrooms and a few large pancakes in the village. When the sun was high in the afternoon, they bid farewell to the villagers who warmly treated them farewell. Ignoring the villagers' refusal, they left the money for their food and embarked on their return journey. Let's stop what we're doing and make a conclusion. After returning to the town, they booked a large courtyard in an inn. Xiao Bei had been cooped up in the house for more than 2 hours. When he came out, he began to worry about the members of the children's troop. He wanted to hold a summary meeting. Although the mission had failed, the bodyguards still had to listen to Xiao Bei's orders. Xiao Yuan was afraid that Xiao Bei would not be able to recover from this setback after receiving such a blow, so he stood guard beside Xiao Bei's room for more than 2 hours. When he saw that Xiao Bei's complexion was still quite good when he came out, he moved closer and comforted him softly. Xiao Bei, don't be afraid. Our brother and sister said that failure is the mother of success. When have I, Xiao Bei, ever been afraid? Xiao Yuan, this thinking of yours is wrong. It's wrong. How did we fail? Everyone, come over and talk. Let's talk about the results of our investigation in the cattle herding village regarding the implementation of cattle herding techniques. I will first make a statement. I think that the Zhang family and Wang family did a good job in the dissemination of technology. At the very least, a remote place like the cattle herding village accepted our theory. Furthermore, according to the local environment and local conditions, they came up with a reasonable method of cattle herding in winter. It's worth promoting, but we can't be too rash. We have to let people from other places understand the importance of different environments. This time, the members of the children's troop were very successful. The members of Xiao Hai's troop provided effective help to the group in terms of calculations. The members of Xiao Zhu's troop recorded the detailed information that needed to be expressed using graphics along the way. The members of Xiao Yuan's troop cited classics and classics to let us feel the elegance of various places in the Great Tang. There were also the members of Xiao Chang's troop who gave timely and reasonable suggestions during the mission and used facts to prove the correctness of their suggestions. Of course, there were also the 100 guards from the Zhang family and Wang family. During the mission, they were able to achieve a unified command and advance in sync, displaying the grace of our children's troop and protecting our image. This is worthy of praise. I believe that under the guidance of our unity, the future of the children's troop will be beautiful and positive. It will carry forward the past and open up a path for the future. All right, now everyone can speak freely. Don't be afraid of burdens. Be brave enough to discover problems and solve them. After Xiao Bei said this, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't hold it in for 2 hours for nothing. After thinking about what his brother and sister would do when they encountered such a situation, he turned a disadvantage into an advantage. After hearing his sister's words, Xiao Hai, who didn't care about other things, revealed an expression of disbelief for the first time. The faces of the boys were filled with worship. Xiaozhu's eyes moved back and forth, wanting to remember this precious scene, so that it could be recorded on the drawing paper. Sweeping a glance at the 100 guards who were at a loss, Xiao Yuan shook his head vigorously. He stared at Xiao Bei in astonishment and carefully sized him up, as if he wanted to see something from Xiao Bei's face. On the road in Huaiyuan County, Zhang Xiaobao, who was waiting for his brothers and sisters to return, couldn't help but laugh out loud when he heard the words of the people who were sent to protect him. Wang Wan also pursed her lips and narrowed her eyes into peach shapes. Zhang Xiaobao kept laughing. He laughed until he squatted on the ground, one hand covering his stomach and the other slapping his thigh. I'm dying of laughter. Our Xiao Bei is really amazing. It must be because you, his sister, have taught him well. He can turn black into white. This is definitely the quality an official should have. Not bad. Don't splash dirty water on an official. No matter how good an official is at spouting nonsense, they can't compare to swindlers like you. It's really hard for Xiao Bei. What are you thinking? It's not easy. Let's go, the team will move forward. I reckon that Xiao Bei and the others will have received the news and should be arriving at Huazhou Prefecture soon. Wang Wan held back her laughter. She pulled Zhang Xiaobao up and instructed the team to move forward. Outside the county town of Huazhou Prefecture, the two teams met up. Xiao Bei found her brother and sister and bragged about her contribution in this investigation. Of course, she also mentioned a few small mistakes and humbly expressed that she would learn more in the future. Zhang Xiaobao praised Xiao Bei and the others for their hard-working spirit and acknowledged the results obtained by the children's regiment. He also encouraged them to continue to work without fear of difficulties in the future. As for the small mistakes in the operation, he also gave them guidance. In the end, he waved his hand and reimbursed all the funds for this activity. He also allocated an additional sum of funds to solve the financial difficulties of the children's regiment. The team continued to move forward. They were not far from Huaiyuan County. To be precise, they were within the borders of Huaiyuan County. The news sent from Beijing showed that Li Longji was also on the road. Because there were people from the surrounding countries, the ceremonial guards were all out. The team was relatively large, so it would probably take a few days to reach Huaiyuan County. Naturally, Li Longji also praised Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan in his decree. This was all because Zhu Zan and Mo Jilian had used the courtesy of a subject in the court. There was no need to mention the other places. The people sent by Japan to present the tribute and the people sent by Silla also used the courtesy of a subject. As for whether they were convinced or not, it didn't matter. After another 3 days, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who had reached Huaiyuan County, began to make the final adjustments and arrangements. They wanted to give the people from the surrounding countries an unforgettable impression. They had to look at all the key places. Xiao Bei, who had re-established her position in the regiment, became more mature in theory after a few days of learning by her brother's side. She led more than 100 people to continue carrying out her orders. A heavy snow fell. The team coming out of Beijing had to slow down. Looking at the snowflakes floating outside, Li Longji was clearly in a good mood. He took a sip of the tea in his cup and tasted it carefully. He said to Gao Lisher, who was waiting beside him, "It's another good year. There won't be a drought here next year. How are the preparations on Xiaobao's side?" "Your Majesty, the letter says that everything is ready. We're just waiting to scare the people from the surrounding countries. There's also a letter from home. It says about Xiao Bei and the others. Your Majesty, do you want to take a look?" Gao Lisher couldn't help but laugh when he thought about what Xiao Bao said in the letter. Chapter 824. Seeing that it was snowing heavily, in order to give Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan more time to prepare, Li Longji chose to take the waterway after traveling for a while. He wanted to let the people who followed him know what it meant to break the ice. A series of muffled explosions resounded on both sides of the canal. The ship, with a thick iron plate at the bow, crushed the ice along the way. When the sound of ice shattering reached the ears of the people following Li Longji, the expressions of those who were prepared to see a joke finally changed. Coming out of the cabin, Zhu Zan picked up the clairvoyant I lent to him and listened to the explosions in front of the canal. Looking at the big ship rushing all the way across the ice, it would be a lie to say that he was not shocked. The martial arts of the Tang Empire are so powerful. I wonder what will happen on Mount Hua this time. Sigh. Zhu Zan pressed the hat on his head and felt that the wind was a little weaker. He looked at the people who were watching the explosion on both sides of the canal and the iron cable suspension bridge across the canal and sighed. Princess Jincheng, whose complexion had obviously improved, stood beside Zhu Zan and looked around softly. When she heard Zhu Zan's words, she raised her eyebrows slightly and said softly to him, "Zanpu, why don't we go back to Tubo and learn from the situation on the Yellow River here? We can build a few iron cable bridges there to make it convenient for people to travel." "I also want to do that," Zhu Zan replied to Princess Jincheng. Princess Jincheng did not say anything more. She understood what Zhu Zan meant. In terms of iron smelting technology, Tubo was not as good as the Tang Empire. Even if they wanted to build an iron cable suspension bridge, there was no suitable iron ring to use. Moreover, it was not easy to find stones to make the pillars of the bridge. Large pieces of copper and iron were not enough to make them. Iron for weapons was even more scarce. As for cement, the Zhang and Wang families did not sell it to outsiders. The cement used in the Tang Empire, even if they paid for it, had to be watched by the people sent by the Zhang family and Wang family before they could build it. Who knew how many people who wanted to get the cement hated the Zhang family and Wang family? A burst of children's laughter attracted Princess Jincheng's attention. She raised her thousandly eyes and saw a group of children flying kites on the southern bank of the canal. It was supposed to be a spring kite, but in the winter, it still made people happy. Taking a closer look, the kite was not made of paper, but pink silk cloth. A large bird that looked like a phoenix was flying in the wind, its long tail swaying gently, adding a touch of gorgeous color to the snowy scenery. A child wearing gorgeous clothes, under the protection of a servant, happily released and retracted the string of a kite. A group of children wearing ordinary clothes surrounded him, clapping their hands, jumping and laughing. After a while, the child, who was obviously from a rich family, stuffed the wire board he was holding into the hands of an ordinary child next to him. Then, he pulled the hand of another ordinary child and laughed together. Don't hate poverty with riches and honor. Children play with kites. The white snow is not cold yet, and the colorful phoenixes fly and warm the world. Princess Jincheng looked, and a gratified smile appeared on her face as she murmured in admiration. When Zuzanchi heard Princess Jincheng's words and saw the children playing on the bank, his face became more and more ugly. He understood that the reason why the children of the rich could play together with the children of ordinary families was not because the children understood unity, but because of the teachings of the adults. The more united the people of the Tang Empire were, and the more harmonious their lives were, the harsher it was for the Tubo people. The children of the Tubo people, who had a bit of status, would not play with the children of ordinary people. The conflict was intensifying bit by bit, especially when the news of the Tang Empire kept spreading. Many slaves, even if they did not say it out loud behind their backs, they were discussing when Wang Wan would be able to lead troops to conquer the Tubo people and change their status. This was not a good sign. Otherwise, when war broke out, the people would not have the heart to defend themselves, and the soldiers would not have the will to fight to the death. Who could stop the Tang Empire's cavalry? Who would be willing to use their flesh and blood to fight against the spears of the Tang Empire? Zhu Zhenqi secretly sighed and turned his head to look at Princess Jincheng, whose complexion was obviously better than when she was in the Tubo people. He forced a smile and said to her, "Nunu, have you been playing well at home these few days? Have you seen Wu Huifei and Empress Wang? This time, we will stay for a few more days in the Tang Empire. We have to see them often. The wind outside is strong, so let's go back to the cabin to avoid the wind." Princess Jincheng followed Zuzhenqi into the cabin and served him tea. Then she said to him, "Zuzhenpu, Empress Wang, and Zhang Wang have a close relationship. Wu Huifei has a lot of complaints, but Empress Wang is in charge of the harem, so there is no big deal." If Princess Jincheng had a choice, she would not be willing to help Zuzhenqi inquire about this kind of news. However, she had no choice. She could not stay in the Tang Empire forever. She still had to return to the Tubo people. For her, the Tang Empire was better. It was more comfortable to breathe there than in the Tubo people. Although the Tubo people had a clear sky, there were some places where you could not boil an egg. You could only fry it and eat it. The food was much more monotonous. How could it compare to the food in the palace these few days? Zuzhenqi also knew that the food in the Tang Empire was delicious, but he did not pay attention to it at all. When he heard Princess Jincheng's words, his eyes lit up. He lowered his voice and asked, "Can we let people impeach Empress Wang and Zhang Wang families for conspiring? You understand?" "No." Princess Jincheng Weiwei shook her head. His Majesty has long known the relationship between Empress Wang and Zhang Wang families. Not only Empress Wang, but other people in the imperial family also have connections with Zhang Wang and Zhang Wang families. It is said that all the memorials to impeach Zhang and Wang families are held by His Majesty and not sent to the Hall of Secretaries. Whenever someone in the imperial court talks about it, other officials will change the topic. "Oh, Zhang Wang and Zhang Wang families are so favored by the emperor?" Zuzhenqi really did not know about the situation inside the imperial court. Did Wu Huifei mention how to deal with Zhang Wang and Zhang Wang families? Princess Jincheng shook her head again. "No, I even asked Zuzhenpu about countermeasures. I heard that Wu Huifei has already made a move against Zhang Wang and Zhang Wang families. Every time, it ended in failure. Now, she is just complaining. Perhaps she has other thoughts, but she has not shown them. Then there is no other way." Zuzhenqi muttered unwillingly. "Kill Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan." Princess Jincheng said, If I could kill the two of them, I would have done it long ago. Let's talk about this later." "Yes, let's talk about it later." Zuzhenqi temporarily dismissed the idea of directly dealing with Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. As the boat continued to move forward, Zuzhenqi had other thoughts. He instructed Princess Jincheng, during this period of time, ask more about the Tang Empire, especially the things that we Tubo spies are unable to come into contact with. For example, how is cement made? Why can the clairvoyants see so far away? How are long guns and short guns made? The stability of Tubo depends on these. "Zuzhenpu, don't worry. I will ask around." Princess Jincheng agreed very quickly. As for what she was thinking in her heart, Zuzhenqi did not know. The group was still slowly moving towards Huayin County. The journey that originally took 3 days was delayed to around 10 days. In Li Longji's opinion, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan should be ready. After all, the two of them were very capable. While Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were busy at the foot of Baiyan Peak, Xiaobei and a group of people ran to Huayin County's Yamen. The matter of receiving Li Longji's group was from Huazhou Prefecture. The officials of Huayin County were only responsible for following orders and were not very busy. When Xiaobei brought a group of guards to the door, the current county magistrate of Huayin County, Fang Yang, Fang Shuri, personally came out to welcome him. He was afraid that something would happen and he would be caught. All the officials near the capital knew that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family had 9 children. They also knew the extent of the 9 children's power. They could not be targeted by them when the emperor was coming. Fang Yang, who was carefully receiving the guests, thought that nothing would happen, who knew that as soon as they entered the Yamen, Xiaobei looked around and found a problem. County Magistrate Fang, why don't I see a place specially used to receive the common people? When the common people come, do you want them to wait outside? It's fine in the summer. When it's hot, they can find a cool place to hide. Can they also find a warm place in the winter? Where is the reception fee given by the imperial court every year? Xiaobei did not find a place for the common people to rest and eat. She reached out and pulled Fang Yang's sleeve. She looked up and asked. She blinked her cute big eyes, which made Fang Yang feel depressed. No matter how cute Xiaobei was, she became a demon in Fang Yang's eyes. She touched a sore spot. Was there a need to ask? If the annual share was really used on the common people, wouldn't the Yamen lose income? Who didn't need money when they went out to do things? Do you really think that you don't need to worry like the Zhang family? Although he was thinking about it, he couldn't say it out loud. Fang Yang tried to force a smile and replied to Xiaobei, Lord Zhang, you may not know, but there are many people in Huayin County who dislike work. They don't work and only want to live a peaceful life. The Yamen has set up a special reception area for them, so they come to the Yamen to eat and drink. That's why the Yamen removed the reception area. Dislike work? What do you mean? Xiaobei turned to look at Xiao Yuan. They like to live a peaceful life, but don't want to work. They only take and don't give. Xiao Yuan answered. I see. So it's right to not set up a reception place. Xiaobei still looked up at Fang Yang. Fang Yang breathed a sigh of relief. Lord Zhang is right. Then why isn't there such a person in Sanshui County? County Magistrate Fang is an official. Isn't he educating the people to do good and do good things? Instead, he's just a bystander who doesn't do anything. This is called not doing anything. Xiao Yuan, write a memorial and wait for Her Majesty to come. Xiaobei's words scared Fang Yang so much that his heart almost jumped out of his mouth. He looked at the other 8 children's expressions and didn't know what to do. If they really wrote a memorial, he was finished. Who didn't know Her Majesty's attitude towards the 9 children? Not to mention that the Yamen wasn't that clean. Even if it was done well, wouldn't it be able to find a problem if they wanted to investigate? Fang Yang didn't know what to do. The registrar accompanying him was even more scared. There were some problems with his accounts. Although there weren't many discrepancies, once it was found out, it would be a serious crime. At the very least, he would be dismissed. After hearing Xiaobei's suggestion and looking at the 9 children, he felt that no matter how he looked at them, they were very detestable. Why were they so troublesome? Did they not understand the difficulties of the local government? Thinking was thinking, but he still had to say, Lord Zhang, it's not easy to run a county. Just listen to Lord Zhang and immediately set up a room to receive the people. There's no need to write a memorial, right? Xiao Yuan frowned. If the higher-ups investigate, the subordinates will work. If the order is issued early, it will be abolished. Are you guys going against us? Seeing that we're young, we'll just deal with it. How do I know if you guys will continue to remove the place after we leave? Seal the accounts. Let Brother Xiaohai investigate. The registrar didn't expect a group of children to be so difficult to answer correctly. He wanted to bribe them, but then he thought of the business between the Zhang family and Wang family. He wanted to threaten them, but then he thought of the military power of the Zhang family and Wang family. He couldn't advance or retreat. Seeing that they wanted to seal the accounts, his face darkened. The imperial censor can't seal the accounts directly. He can only impeach them. Don't tell me you guys want to overstep your authority? Fine, then we won't seal it. We'll just impeach them directly. Let's wait and see. Xiaobei, why are we still going inside? What if they want to kill us? Let's go and find brother and sister. Xiao Yuan pulled Xiaobei with a cold face and turned to walk outside. Xiaobei was stunned for a moment before she reacted and nodded. That's right. If they don't allow us to seal the accounts, there must be a problem. Impeach them with all your might. I want to see Uncle Emperor personally and talk to him face to face. This is too unreasonable. Fang Yang was dumbfounded and glared at the registrar. The registrar's head buzzed and his vision turned black. He paused for a few breaths before he recovered. He knew that if he really let Xiaobei and the others leave, he would be finished. He stepped forward excitedly and opened his arms to block Xiao Bei and the others. Let's talk nicely. Don't be in a hurry. Let's go inside and talk. Oh no, they want to do something to us. Children's regiment, go and take them down. Xiao Bei was worried about how to deal with this matter properly and didn't have a chance. Seeing that someone dared to stop her, she had an excuse. She shouted loudly and looked scared. As soon as Xiao Bei shouted, 10 of the most stable children in the children's regiment took out their pistols and aimed at the group of people in the yamen. The people in the yamen all stopped moving. They knew what the other party was holding. Although the yamen had applied for it, the imperial court didn't give it to them. However, they knew the power of this thing very well. It wouldn't be good if it hit them. Humph. Do you think I'm not prepared? I just applied for it from brother and sister. It's just in time. I'll kill whoever dares to touch it. Xiao Bei clapped her hands and walked out excitedly. She had a smug look on her face, indicating that she had foresight. The 10 children holding the pistols were more nervous. They had practiced shooting before, but this was the first time they were facing people. They held the pistols tightly with both hands so that they could bear the recoil when they fired. It wasn't easy to be able to practice shooting. When Zhang Xiaobao said to let the children practice shooting, Wang Wan was worried that the children couldn't bear the recoil. It was Zhang Xiaobao who said, "Children in war-torn places shoot with AKs and rocket launchers. What can our children do with pistols?" They weren't allowed to carry guns usually. It was Xiao Bei who applied for it after she came back from the cattle-herding village. Only 10 pistols were given to the most stable children. The people in the yamen restrained them. The other children took out handcuffs and prepared to handcuff them one by one. At this moment, the county magistrate of Huayin County was a little far away. He was moving closer to the wall. "You stop. What do you mean? Why are you running? Do you have a guilty conscience?" Xiao Bei, who was proud of herself, suddenly realized the situation. She pointed at the county magistrate and shouted. The county magistrate and other officials turned their heads at the same time and looked at the county magistrate in surprise. They were puzzled. "No, I'm not running. I'm going to get the rope." "Yes, get the rope." The county magistrate was still moving as he spoke. "Haha, catch him quickly. If he dares to run, shoot him." "I didn't expect that. It's just a small crime of being greedy. Even if we investigate, we won't be able to trace it back to him. He's just going to be exiled. But he's actually afraid of being caught. What does this mean?" Yes, what does this mean? Everyone was thinking in their hearts. It means that what he has committed is a capital crime. Go F***CK this guy. Xiao Bei answered himself and commanded the children's group to rush forward. The county magistrate stopped for a while. Just when everyone thought that he was going to be caught, he suddenly started running towards the inside. Bang! A child with a gun in his hand pulled the trigger. The county magistrate's leg was wounded, and he fell to the ground with a plop. He was pressed down by a group of children and handcuffed. They lifted the county magistrate's clothes to cover his head and dragged him to Xiao Bei. "Let's go and find my brother and sister. County Magistrate Fang, let's not pursue the other matters in the yamen for now. Come with me." Xiao Bei had made a greater contribution and did not care about the small matter in Huayin County. Yes, we'll go now. Guards, help Lord Zhang to detain the county magistrate." "Thank you so much, Lord Zhang. Thank you so much." Fang Yang was grateful to the county magistrate who was caught. He quickly agreed and asked the yamen runners to detain the county magistrate whose leg was still bleeding. He followed Xiao Bei and the others to the foot of Mount Hua. When Li Longji arrived at the foot of Mount Hua, the first thing he did was to catch the person sent by the Blackwater Commandery. The Blackwater Commander-in-Chief's mansion was further north than the Bohai Commander-in-Chief's mansion. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's sphere of influence did not reach there. Although they had already acknowledged them and were willing to pay the tax, they had all kinds of excuses to set the tax amount very small. More importantly, there were many mountains and forests, and the road was very steep. The county magistrate who was caught by Xiao Bei in Huayin County was sent by the Blackwater Commandery. He had been undercover for a long time. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan tested almost all the interrogation methods they knew on him. Only then did they manage to get him to talk. At the beginning, all kinds of physical methods did not work at all. He did not say anything even when he was covered with bruises. In the end, they had to interrogate him tirelessly and use anesthetics and alcohol to solve the problem. Therefore, they began to search the mountain and send out hunting dogs. They found the people who were hiding and a large number of fireworks buried in various strategic places. Everyone knew that the fireworks were not used to welcome Li Longji. After capturing them, he sent an imperial edict to Li Sun, who was still at the Songhua Commander-in-Chief manor, ordering him to mobilize 20,000 elite troops in Jili Prefecture, plus 10,000 of his own troops, and to gather 50,000 porters to attack the Blackwater Commander-in-Chief manor. The 20 gunboats guarding the Bohai Sea Commander-in-Chief manor also took advantage of the fact that the Bohai Sea Bay was not frozen to sail up the coast, intending to storm the Blackwater Commander-in-Chief manor. The people from the surrounding countries who had accompanied Li Longji all understood that Li Longji had dispatched such a large force. One reason was that he truly wanted to flatten the Blackwater Commander-in-Chief's manor, and the other was that he wanted to show off the might of the great Tang to them. "Hello, Uncle Emperor." After Li Longji landed at the foot of Mount Hua, Xiao Bei and the others came looking for him. They didn't care if there were people from other countries present. They didn't call him Your Majesty, nor did they mention their status as subjects. They just smiled and approached Li Longji to greet him. Perhaps because he was in a good mood, Li Longji found Xiao Bei more adorable. He picked her up and put her on the dragon chair beside him. He touched her head and said, "Good, good. Xiao Bei, you made a great contribution again. Tell me, what reward do you want?" Hum. Xiao Bei smiled shyly. No matter how he looked at her, he felt that she was a cute little girl. If the county magistrate Fang Yang saw this, he would definitely think that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Was this still the Lord Zhang, who turned hostile at once in the yamen? Was this still the ruthless girl who would shoot whenever she wanted? Zhu Zanqi sighed silently in his heart. He finally knew the position of the Zhang family and the Wang family in Li Longji's heart. It was more difficult than climbing to the sky to drive a wedge between them. They had a good rest for 2 days. The long-awaited sword competition on Mount Hua began. Although it was called sword competition, except for the Tang Empire, no one had a sword in their hands. They could only watch or talk about it. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan chose Baiyun Peak to show the military strength of the Tang Empire. So they were going to take this path. The snow-covered mountain looked lofty and dreamy. If they did not know that Li Longji was showing the strength of the country, people from other countries would like to experience the beauty of nature in such a scenery. Suddenly he left his position and ran to Zhu Zanqi. He whispered to him, "Zan Pu, do you know what they're going to do?" Zhu Zanqi shook his head and said, "Who knows? Just watch. Do you want to climb the mountain at this time? Where did the path come from? Let's go. 1st Engineering Battalion, go." When many people were guessing how to climb the mountain, the Commander-in-Chief Wang Wan pulled out the saber at her waist and waved it forward. The order was passed down. Immediately, drums and gongs sounded and military flags flew. The 1,000 soldiers of the 1st Reinforced Battalion shouted in unison and rushed out from the right side of the team. Since ancient times, there had been a path on Mount Hua. At this time, the path was even more difficult. There were mountains in front of them and cliffs in the distance. Not to mention climbing to the top, just the path in front of them made people feel weak in the knees. While everyone was guessing what the 1,000 soldiers were going to do, the people of the 1st Engineering Battalion had already reached a small cliff. They did not take the path that the herb gatherers usually took. The first row of 50 people did not stop when they reached the cliff. They stretched their hands back, and the people in the other rows each held a long bamboo pole and pushed it up. The people in front of them grabbed it and shouted, "Ha, ha!" They used the same chant and used the bamboo pole to push the people in front of them up the cliff. The people below understood that this was a tactic used when attacking a city. However, the length of the bamboo pole was obviously not enough to push people to the top of the cliff. What was the use of climbing a certain distance? While everyone was puzzled, the 50 people who were pushed to the top of the cliff grabbed the bamboo pole with one hand and pulled the backpack on their back in front of them with the other hand. No one knew what they took out from the backpack. With a gun-like sound, 50 ropes were pulled down from the top. The people at the bottom immediately climbed up the rope at lightning speed. It was unknown how long they had practiced. Looking at the height of 6 zhang, they climbed up in a few steps. The last person at the bottom handed the bamboo pole up and also began to climb. As soon as the bamboo pole went up, the people below raised their clairvoyance one after another, only to see that the person who had just landed stepped on several ropes that were fastened to the cliff wall so quickly. Another bamboo pole lifted the person who had gone up first up another 6 zhang. The same gun-like sound was heard. More ropes were pulled down, and the people below started climbing again. As they were climbing, a rock suddenly loosened, and the people on top fell down. Amidst the shocked cries of the people watching, they were pulled back by the ropes again. Without any intention of stopping, they started climbing again. When they reached a place where the rock protruded and could no longer hold the bamboo pole, the person at the top only had a rope around his waist and started climbing with his bare hands. His 4 limbs moved quickly, but it was very rhythmic. If one looked closely, they would notice that under normal circumstances, the 4 limbs of a bare-handed climber would always be supported by 3 points and moved by 1 point. They would only change under special circumstances. From time to time, the rock that someone grabbed would loosen before they were done. The person who climbed up would fall down again and be pulled back by the rope. They would climb up again and again. Sometimes they even used one arm and a few fingers to hold on to the rock. The people below were shocked to see this. They were even more shocked at the climbing speed. In just a short while, the people from the 1st Engineering Battalion had climbed to a distance of 30 feet. But at this time, there was a very big, protruding rock in the middle. If they wanted to go around it, they would bump into the position of others. They could not directly move horizontally, so there would definitely be a missing piece. Just when many people thought that the Tang soldiers would give up on this route, a person rushed out from the crowd and shouted, "Let me do it." Then, this person pulled a person from the 2nd Battalion who was preparing to run with him. As he ran, he took off the person's backpack and changed his belt. When this person ran to the bottom of the cliff, he did not immediately climb along the rope. Instead, he used the momentum of running and used both his hands and feet to jump up more than 30 feet. Wah! The people below were in an uproar. How did he fly up? It was as if his body was weightless. In just a few steps, he had reached a height of more than 30 feet. Then, he hung the rope on the ring around his waist and used a speed that was several times faster than the people from the 1st Battalion to climb up. This person's hands and feet seemed to only need to touch a small gap in the rock. He did not need to do too much. His whole body was like a monkey jumping up with a whoosh. Zhang Xiaobao, he is Zhang Xiaobao. After the people below were shocked, they finally recognized who this person was. They turned around to look. As expected, Zhang Xiaobao, who had been accompanying Wang Wan, was gone. Didn't they say that Zhang Xiaobao was only good at economics and calculation? When did he become capable of such things? Ku Tuyu, who was standing beside Zhu Zan of Qi, opened his eyes wide and shouted in disbelief. Not only him, but those who did not know Zhang Xiaobao also thought so. Wow, Big Brother is so awesome. Xiao Bei had never seen her brother do such a thing in front of her. At this moment, she opened her mouth in surprise and cheered, waving her little fists with all her strength. Only Wang Wan pursed her lips and smiled, whispering to herself, "This is the international swindler that made countless special police officers helpless. Flying over roofs and vaulting walls. Who knows how many self-proclaimed elites have their faces wiped off. And it seems that he is even more awesome than before." If the family has no money, Big Brother can support us by being a cat burglar, Xiao Bei said with certainty. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao did not have the leisure to care about what other people thought. He did not allow a blank area to appear on the cliff. In the shortest time possible, he came to the protruding rock, paused for a moment, and looked up at the lines under the rock. Then, under the exclamations of the people below, he suddenly jumped up and did a forward flip. Halfway through the movement, he took out an item from his backpack. His feet suddenly stretched out, and he stepped on the cliff in front of him. His body flew out parallel to the bottom of the protruding rock. Just as his head was above the protruding rock, he stretched his hands forward, and the object in his hands just happened to hit the protruding rock. With a sound, his body fell down. Just as he fell for a distance of 3 meters, his arms wrapped around the rope that was just nailed to the rock. Then he swung forward, and his feet once again stepped on the spot where he just stepped. His body flew away from a cliff, but the rope in his hands did not loosen. Using this time strength, he stretched his legs, exerted strength in his waist, and drew an arc. Under the pull of the rope, he hit the outermost, protruding rock. He grabbed with one hand, and his legs did a horizontal split. His hand buckled forward, and his hand loosened and pulled again. When he stopped, his whole body was already standing on the rock. With a sound, a rope was pulled down for the people below to use. The people below were stunned. Gao Lisher stood up from the chair and began to look at his adopted son again. Chapter 825. There wasn't a single ray of sunlight shining on Zhang Xiaobao's body. It was just that the wind was a little stronger because he was standing at a high altitude. Even so, the people at the foot of the mountain still had to reevaluate Zhang Xiaobao's position. Even the smiling Wang made people have other guesses. The people who followed MOG felt that Zhang Xiaobao was climbing very fast, but they couldn't understand why 1,000 people were climbing the mountain. They asked in confusion, "Master, can they threaten us by climbing the mountain?" They can't. The threat is to Tubo and the northern part of Hebei province, especially the northern part of Hebei province. With this speed, when the two sides meet in the valley, the Tang Empire won't be in a hurry to set up the formation. Instead, they will climb the mountain. When the others rush over, they will be greeted with a rain of arrows. No, a rain of bullets. MOG estimated the time and explained to the people around him. When he looked at Zhu Zan of Cheetah on the left, there was some pity in his eyes. Zhu Zan of Cheetah was silent. He was still thinking about what was the thing that nailed the rope to the cliff after the clapping sound. 2nd Engineering Battalion, go. Wang didn't have time to introduce the tool to others. Seeing that the fastest climber was close to the top of the mountain, she waved the sword in her hand and changed the sound of the drum. The 1,000 soldiers of the 2nd Battalion shouted and rushed up the road made by the 1st Battalion. With the rope, their climbing speed was much faster than the 1st Battalion. Every time they climbed a certain distance, they would start to throw the rope horizontally and let the people next to them catch it. At the key points, they would use the clapping thing to fix it again. 3rd Battalion, go. Wang's order continued to change. The people of the 3rd Battalion rushed up but didn't climb. They just waited at the bottom. Wang came to Li Longji's dragon carriage and said, "Your Majesty, please go up the mountain." "Yes, Lisher." Li Longji happily responded and began to instruct Gao Lisher. Gao Lisher naturally knew what to do. He passed down the orders one by one, and the troops slowly moved towards a cliff. When they arrived at the bottom of the cliff, the people from the 3rd Engineering Battalion threw out grappling hooks and hooked onto all the carriages, pulling them up with all their might. As everyone's bodies gradually left the ground, many of those who couldn't figure out how to go up the mountain finally understood. They were actually going to hang themselves. They were a little worried, but also a little expectant. They had never played like this before. How did Zhang Xiaobao and Wang come up with this idea? If I had known earlier, I would have brought the house. Xiao Bei was not afraid at all. He poked his head out with all his might. the whole way up, except for the brave ones. The rest of the people felt like they had just survived a disaster. It was really too exciting. Li Longji casually glanced at everyone's faces. Wei Wei curled her lips and whispered to Gao Lishir, "It seems that there are still many cowards. Your Majesty is right. This is just the beginning. When the other arrangements are shown later, I think they will be scared to death." Gao Lishir's eyes looked around. He wanted to ask Zhang Xiaobao how to climb as if he was flying. It looked very easy. It was not difficult at all. After the people from the surrounding areas came up, they looked at where Li Longji was and waited. They wondered what kind of sword competition it would be. Would it be like the Three Kingdoms, where they discussed the heroes while drinking wine? At this time, Gao Lishir stood up and asked loudly, "Envoys, do you still remember the edgeless sword that was sent along with the invitation to the sword competition on Mount Hua? But please take it out." Everyone thought to themselves, "Isn't this nonsense? Does it not have a sword?" They all ordered the people who were guarding the sword to take it out and take it off their hands to show it to the emperor. Gao Lishir nodded with satisfaction and said, "The emperor once said that a sword has two edges. If you want to hurt others, you have to care about yourself. Remember, on the trip to Mount Hua, you can speak with your heart. Where is the edge?" After that, Gao Lishir stopped talking. Everyone looked at the sword in their hands, and then looked at where Li Longji was. They did not understand for a while. They also did not know what was going to happen on the trip to Mount Hua. Just as they were speculating, Wang Wan took over the command of the army again. "Send the signal, call the Air Force." At the order, colorful fireworks exploded in the sky one after another. The gorgeous and dazzling scene made the people who were waiting feel a little relieved. Fortunately, there was not much snow on Mount Hua. Otherwise, they would have been buried by the snow. Among them, Zhu Zan felt the most. After all, he was in a place with many snowy mountains. Then the people from the surrounding countries began to wonder, "Air Force, what is the Air Force? What is the use of it?" While everyone was wondering, and Li Longji was looking forward to it, countless black spots appeared in the distant sky and approached Mount Hua. When Zhu Zan saw so many black spots, the first thing that came to his mind was the Tang Empire's eagle formation. He could not help but tremble. Although the incident had passed, he could not forget the countless eagles flying on the front line of Jinchuan. They provided the Tang Empire's army with information at any time and suppressed the eagles on his side. In particular, there was an eagle called Shui Yun. It was almost psychic and could cooperate well with people. It understood the human language and could send messages from thousands of miles away. What was even more infuriating was that Shui Yun did not have the slightest bit of pride as an eagle. Other eagles were more courageous in battle. No matter who the opponent was, they would not admit defeat even if they were to die in battle. Shui Yun retreated when there was danger and took advantage of the situation. It was very strange that an eagle could do this. Many people also thought that it was an eagle flying over. As the black spots gradually approached, they could see them with their clairvoyance. Only then did they realize that it was not an eagle at all. There were two kinds of flying objects. One was a big ball with a big basket hanging below it. They did not know what it was used for. The other was frightening. The spectators all opened their mouths in disbelief. Those flying objects were actually people. They had special wings on their backs, and the people were below. They did not know how to control the wings, but they were flying back and forth in the sky. Red fireworks rose into the sky. Everyone watched as the winged people adjusted their positions and arranged themselves into a horizontal snake formation. Fireworks rose again, and the snake formation was pulled apart. One row became 2 rows, 2 rows became 4 rows, and 4 rows became 8 rows. Only then did the formation stop. The formation was distinct, rising and falling like the wind on the water surface or the overlapping of fish scales. This was the fish scale formation. The first feeling that the crowd felt from such a formation change was that they were stunned. However, before they could fully comprehend the first feeling, the second feeling came. That was fear. Even those who did not understand military affairs could tell that the person below the wings was a soldier when they saw the Tang uniform. Soldiers were naturally used to fight. How could one fight an enemy flying in the sky? How fast would a horse be able to avoid the pursuit of a flying man? How high was the city wall to prevent the enemy from entering the city? Moji felt bitter. Just now, when the Tang people were climbing the cliff, he was gloating. Now it was his turn. Could a horse galloping on the grassland outrun a flying person? Not to mention shooting arrows from above. Even if someone threw a torch at his camp, he would not be able to withstand it. Where did the Tang get so many wings? Everyone's expression changed. Those from the Tang who had never seen such a scene blushed and felt an inexplicable sense of pride. Those flying in the sky were the Tang army. Who in the world could defeat them? Some of the people in the surroundings were livid, while others were pale. Why was this happening? When did the Tang army have a flying army? Li Longji squinted his eyes and kept looking at the expressions of the others. He was very happy in his heart. Who asked you to make trouble? Why did you have to invade the border and force Xiao Bao and Cuckoo's family? Humph, there will be more in a while. But suddenly he stroked the sword that had not been sharpened and suddenly understood. He muttered, "So that's how it is. Your Majesty is asking us whether we should sharpen the sword of the Tang Empire. Should our sword have no edges or double edges? Where does the edge point?" When the people around him heard his words, they also understood what was going on. Great Tang's Li Longji was trying to show off. Wang Wan also deliberately asked Xiao Bei loudly, "Do you think the sword of the Tang Empire should be sharpened?" Xiao Bei shook his head and also replied loudly, "No. Didn't brother say in the story that a heavy sword without an edge? This is called subduing the enemy without fighting." Hearing Wang Wan and Xiao Bei's questions and answers, the mountaintop became even quieter. Only the sound of the wind could be heard. Without giving them too much time to be silent, the winged people in the sky had already flown over their heads. They changed their movements from time to time, and the balls with baskets below also approached. When all the balls were floating above their heads, one of them landed first. Everyone looked at it carefully and saw that there was a fire on it. Wasn't this similar to the Kongming lantern? The emperor has ordered that all officials change. Gao Lisher called out and first put a backpack on Li Longji. Mo Jilian and the others did not know what it was for. Soon, the backpack was arranged. Li Longji, under Gao Lisher's help, stepped onto the first Kongming lantern that landed first. 2 other people accompanied him. The rest of them were also put on backpacks, each of them accompanied by a Tang soldier to protect them. Their hearts trembled as they entered the baskets, their hands tightly gripping the rims of the baskets, as if this could save their lives in the face of danger. When all the large Kongming lanterns had people on them, they lined up in 3 lines and flew toward the north. Zhu Zan and Princess Jinsheng were together. They nervously and curiously looked down. They saw clouds and mist and mountains. When they saw that the people on the mountaintop who did not follow them had become small black dots, they sat back down dizzily and sighed, "Oh my God," falling down and turning into a meat patty. Crazy. The Tang Empire people are crazy. Princess Jinsheng did not look down at all. She was afraid of heights and looked around. There was a person in the basket who was responsible for turning the handle. Every time the handle was turned, the thing called a propeller made by the Tang Empire people outside the basket would turn many times. There were 2 people in the middle of the basket. One of them had a clairvoyance in his hand and was responsible for looking out. The other person scooped a spoonful of black stuff from the bucket under his feet from time to time. After thinking about it, he recognized that it was tallow water, which could be burned. The large Kongming lanterns were made from tallow water. Next to the burning area, there was a set of hollow iron rings, big and small. Whenever it rose too high, the person in charge of adding oil and water would use one of the rings to lower the height. If one was not enough, 2 rings would be used, adding and subtracting each other. Zhu Zan, who had recovered, also noticed this situation. Thinking about it, it did not seem difficult. If he learned from the Tang Empire, then he would not have to be afraid of the Tang Empire anymore. He was not the only one who had this idea, especially the Japanese. They were very adventurous and considered whether they could fly across the sea with the Kongming lanterns. Kutuyu, who was smart, rejected the idea of going back and making Kongming lanterns. He sighed and said, "From now on, there will be no kitens. General, we can also do it, but we don't know where to fly. You won't suddenly throw us down while flying, right?" Kutuyu's advisor, who was with him, said aloud, "Let's talk about it later. Let's fly north. I don't know where to go." Kutuyu was afraid of being overheard, so he did not mention it again. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan knew where to go. There was a large plain north of the Wei River on the south bank of the Wei River, which was actually the Wei River Plain. That was the last stop. The Kongming lanterns flew and finally came to the sky above the plain. They gradually descended. At this time, the soldier in charge of protecting the people in the surroundings played the role of a tour guide and explained to the people in the basket. His Majesty invited everyone here to let everyone see the reason why we are not afraid of the threat of further enemies when we are together in the future. With my protection, you can stick your head out and take a look. Hearing the soldier's words, everyone suppressed their fear of the sky and forced themselves to look down with their clairvoyance. They saw that there were wooden stakes inserted into the ground below, and 2 pigs were tied to each stake. Some of the pigs were lying on the ground sleeping, while others were trying to break free. After seeing it, they did not immediately understand what it was for. While they were puzzled, the low sound of drums could be heard, and their hearts jumped. Bang! A firework exploded in a place in the east of the plain, attracting everyone's attention. "There's nothing." "No, there's a flag." "Also, there's something beside the flag." "There's 1, 2, 3. I think there's more than 100 of them." "Nu, can you see them?" Zhu Zan opened his eyes wide. He was afraid that he was seeing things, so he asked Princess Jincheng. "I can see it." Princess Jincheng replied with certainty. "That's good. I don't know what it is." Zhu Zan was at a loss. At this time, the sound of drums changed again, becoming more urgent. Everyone looked at the place where the flag was inserted and found that there were suddenly many people running back and forth. At the same time, they understood. No wonder they could not see clearly. It turned out that there were so many people wearing the same color of clothes as the surroundings. They also wore white hats on their heads. While running, the white cloth was lifted one by one, revealing the things underneath. There was a large hole in the middle of the pillar, and there was a box beside it. Some people were moving things out of the box. After waiting for a quarter of an hour, it seemed that everything was ready. The sound of drums changed again, and the continuous sound of hammers suddenly stopped. Li Longji, who was in the basket, stared at the more than 100 things without blinking. He seemed to be too excited. Wei Wei, who was holding the clairvoyant, trembled. She said to Gao Lisher in a floating voice, "From today onwards, there will be a scene of peace around Tang. Your Majesty is wise." Gao Lisher did not have the leisure to say a lot of words to flatter the emperor. When everyone's eyes were focused on the things on the ground, they saw someone holding a flag in his hand. They vaguely heard a shout. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the people below pushed the things they had taken out from the box into the tube with a large hole. Suddenly, a flame flashed on the pipe with a hole, followed by a whoosh sound. Before everyone could understand what was going on, the place where the pig was tied also had a flame flashing, followed by a thick smoke. Boom, boom, whoosh, whoosh, 2 kinds of sounds, accompanied by flashes of light and smoke, appeared alternately, shaking people's ears to the point of buzzing. The invincible gunship of Jili State. A person from the Bohai Commander-in-Chief's office shouted, but was covered by the rumbling sound. The cannons were roaring, and the smoke was spreading. No one knew when the sound stopped. The person in the basket still had that silly look on his face. The buzzing sound in his ears seemed to be telling a story from a long time ago. The sound of the pheasants flapping their wings in the mountains of the north, the sound of the waves crashing on the rocks by the sea, the crackling of the firewood in the raging fire on the grassland, and the roar of the rolling tide on the snow mountain were all far away at this moment. The pride and glory of the past were covered by the thick black smoke. The propeller behind the basket spun like a shepherd's whip. Find a flat place to land. Don't fall down, maybe there won't be any sound. Wang Wan pulled out the cotton ball in her ear and ordered the person playing the drum. The person playing the drum looked at Wang Wan and also pulled out his ear. Miss, are you talking about going home? Find a place to settle down. Get someone to come and take a look tomorrow. Be careful. Take back the pork that can be eaten and share it. Hit it harder. Wang Wan looked at the craters that had been blasted out and felt distressed. It was all money, much more expensive than setting off firecrackers. Showing off once would cost at least a year's worth of tax in a county. The drumbeat of the drum brought the people who were in their own thoughts back to reality. Using the clairvoyant eye, they looked at the place that was blown up. All the wooden stakes were destroyed. Black soil, brown soil, white snow, red blood, and pigs that were still alive were mixed together. There were also 2 pigs that escaped the disaster, running back and forth crazily. Looking at the iron cylinders, there were 6 horses next to each iron cylinder. They were tied with ropes and struggled to pull the carriage, with wheels, slowly moving in one direction. Large Kongming lanterns fell one by one on the banks of the Wei River. Small pieces of ice floated on the surface of the river, and a large ship was anchored by the river. Someone brought down bundles of firewood from the ship and lit a bonfire. All kinds of food suitable for barbecue were placed on a row of tables, and jars of wine were still sealed with mud. The whimpering sound of the horse and the bleak sound of the horse head zither came from the ship. After a few verses, a man's song sounded. The rolling Yangtze River flows to the east. The waves wash away the heroes. Right and wrong, success and failure disappear in a blink of an eye. The green hills are still there. How many sunsets are there? Chapter 826. Snow had started to fall from the sky, making the illusionary Mount Hua seem even more ethereal. A bowl of strong wine was splashed on the lamb on the grill. The flames jumped up, showing a hint of blue in the red. Li Longji cut off a piece of lamb and put it in his mouth. He chewed a few times and nodded in satisfaction. He was very satisfied with the meal. On the other hand, the people of the countries and ethnic groups around the Great Tang had different expressions. Some of them had already accepted their fates after witnessing the might of the Great Tang. As they listened to the music from the ship, they relaxed, drinking wine and eating meat. They no longer worried about the future, nor did they have the heart to worry. Their own race truly couldn't withstand another round of bombardment. People like Ku Tu kept glancing at Zuzan and Mo Julien, hoping that the Tubo and Turks could be more manly and work together to fight against the Great Tang. Moji did not eat the meat. He just drank half a bowl of strong wine from time to time. It was a very good wine. The weather on the grassland changed too quickly. Hot and cold alternated frequently. If everyone could drink the strong wine of the Great Tang, they would not have to worry about the cold at night. Moji, who thought that he could hold his liquor, drank a few bowls of wine. His body warmed up, his ears turned red, and his eyes became a little blurred. He seemed to have returned to his tent in the Turks. There was fire and meat, and there was light singing and dancing. He smacked his lips twice, not in the mood to think about other people's matters. His hand touched the unsharpened sword on his leg as he sat cross-legged. He praised, "Good sword, truly a good sword. The one who obtains this sword obtains the world. The sword has 2 edges. One edge can lead thousands of armored cavalry, invincible in battle. The other edge can scatter money all over the sky, not worrying about spending. When the sword is retracted, the 4 seas are at peace. When the sword is unsheathed, snow falls. The grassland is too cold. I wonder if it can warm up. Yes, warm up. Find a mountain to hide from the wind." At first, the people around Moji thought that he was really praising the sword in his hand. They looked at the sword, but could not see what was good about it. Only after hearing the latter part of his sentence did she realize that he wasn't talking about the sword in his hand, nor was he talking about the sword in his hand. Instead, he was talking about the sword in Li Longji's hand. Naturally, he was referring to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who were huddled together and whispering something to each other. Zhang Xiaobao's abilities were obvious to all. No matter where he went, he was a hen that laid golden eggs. Countless spies sent to the Great Tang had long ago reported back on the deeds of Zhang Xiaobao. The Great Tang's national treasury was no longer lacking in money. With the existence of the bank, if necessary, one could mobilize 10 million strings of cash at any time. With so much money, he could easily crush someone to death. More importantly, wherever his family went, the lives of the common people would be improved. Many of the officials of the Great Tang weren't stupid, and with his family's methods in front of them, they began to learn. Even if they couldn't compare to his family, they were still much better off than before. When she smiled, her two dimples would appear. At first glance, people would think that she was a lady from a big family. Only those who knew her would understand what kind of existence she was. Although the generals guarding the borders of the Great Tang were always able to win battles and quell rebellions, those were still small battles. Wang Wan only fought one battle, and that one battle was enough to make Tubo suffer greatly. As for quelling rebellions, she had never done so. However, there were signs in Feng province. Some people wanted to cause trouble, but Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan sent some people over. In total, there were less than 500 people. All the signs were extinguished by themselves, and no one dared to provoke her. The main reason was that the generals taught by the war in Tubo had already shown her ability. Those generals were now guarding a region and managed the army like it was made of iron. However, every time someone praised them, they didn't dare to accept the praise and only said that they were far inferior to Cuckoo. The Great Tang only had two people, one civil and one military, to suppress the Great Tang's borders until no one dared to act rashly. That's right, this was a real double-edged sword. Don't let it fall on you, otherwise there would be no return. Everyone had their own thoughts. For a moment, the voices gradually quieted down, leaving only the sound of the wind, the crackling of the firewood, and the sound of stringed and bamboo. Li Longji didn't persuade others to eat the meat. He ate happily by himself. Just now, someone had passed on Mo Jillian's words, which made him deeply agree. Li Shi, you've worked hard. Li Longji suddenly cut a piece of meat, stabbed it with a knife, and sent it to Gao Lishir. Gao Lishir was shocked. He looked at the emperor and didn't understand what he meant. Why did he cut a piece of meat for him? Should he eat it or not? Could it be that he wanted to stab him to death? Thinking in his heart, Gao Lishir opened his mouth. After stuffing the meat into Gao Lishir's mouth and letting him bite, Li Longji kept the knife and showed a rare warm smile. At that time, if Li Shi hadn't discussed with me and said that the experts of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan couldn't be easily moved, I really couldn't help but bring them into the palace. Li Longji said the reason with emotion. Gao Lishir understood. So that's how it is. It seems that the emperor is a little scared. If he really did it, not to mention the fact that there was no Xiaobao and Cuckoo's combined swords, he was afraid that the experts of the Zhang and Wang families would be forced to leave. No matter where they went, as long as it was not in the Tang Empire. Today's sword competition of Mount Hua didn't exist. Even if there was a sword competition of Mount Hua, no one knew where it would be, but it would definitely not be in the Tang Empire. Thinking about this, Gao Lishir said modestly, "Your Majesty has already made a decision. Otherwise, why would you hang the portraits of Xiaobao and Cuckoo in the palace? Your Majesty, I see that Xiaobao seems to have just roasted a chicken. Why don't? Well, you're right. Go." Li Longji's eyes also looked at Zhang Xiaobao from time to time. When he saw Zhang Xiaobao take out a chicken from under the fire, even if he didn't know why he did that, he guessed that it must taste good. At this moment, Zhang Xiaobao, who was hiding and trying to be inconspicuous, didn't expect that Li Longji still had his eyes on him, even if he gave up the opportunity to show off. He took out the beggar's chicken from under the fire, blew off the seal, tore off a wing, and handed it to Wang Wan. Eat, eat, eat more. Hong Qigong like this. It's been 6 years, right? This cooking wine has been in the cellar for 6 years. The wild chickens in the mountain are thinner, but it smells better than the chickens at home. You only know how to eat. In case Tubo and Tujua don't agree to join the Tang Empire and war is coming, you don't even have time to prepare. How can you have the leisure to cook a chicken and leave a good lamb untouched? As Wang Wan talked about Zhang Xiaobao, she took the chicken. Looking at the dry mud on the ground, she was stunned. Then she asked Zhang Xiaobao, "Did you kill the chickens in Phi Chicken Farm? 6 million of them died in one night. Don't be afraid. They definitely don't dare to fight the Tang Empire. It's winter now, and they'll definitely win." What did you say about Phi Chicken Farm? I don't understand. Zhang Xiaobao looked away as he spoke, not looking at Wang Wan. Wang Wan burst out laughing. Don't deny it. Today, I realized that I have never heard of anyone carving words on the mud when cooking beggar's chicken. Moreover, the words carved were Hong Qigong. According to the information, the Phi Chicken Farm once found dried mud with these 3 words. How do you explain that? Oh, there's such a thing. Damn, it makes me angry. That Zhou guy not only deducted the wages of the workers in the surrounding villages, but also didn't dispose of the chicken feces properly, causing the entire village to smell bad. He even used industrial raw materials to raise chickens. I stole a few to eat, but the more I ate, the more it tasted wrong. Back then, the chase was fierce, and I was in a hurry to run into the mountains. Otherwise, I would have poisoned him to death too. Zhang Xiaobao replied confidently. Then do you know how much tax the local area would have to pay without his chicken farm? How are the villagers who can still get some wages living? I don't know. I only know that the villa of the county magistrate's family is very beautiful. Hurry up and eat. Why are you still talking about the past? I don't like to hear others praising my achievements. How about I choose a village here and open a gutter oil processing plant? It can solve more employment problems. I can't stand people who are greedy and don't do practical things for the people. So, you can be greedy if you do practical things? At least that's what I think. Come, follow me. Take the chicken and don't eat it first. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he pulled Wang Wan to a place where there was no one in the distance. Xiaobao, where are you going? Behind them came Gao Lisher's affectionate voice. Father, I'm going to relieve myself with cuckoo. Zhang Xiaobao subconsciously moved the chicken to a place where Gao Lisher couldn't see. What are you talking about? Who's going to relieve themselves with you? Take it out. Wang Wan reached out and poked Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Li Longji with disdain. He took out the chicken and said to Gao Lisher, Father, this chicken has been torn apart and eaten. It's okay, it's okay. When His Majesty eats, he always lets his subordinates taste it first, Gao Lisher said embarrassedly. He took the chicken and rushed back as fast as he could. Bandit, he's just a bearded man. Let's wait. When he's full, we'll dig out the other chicken. Come, let's talk about our future plans. After we take over Tufan and Tujua, we have to use them. Zhang Xiaobao took 2 bites of the chicken claw and sat back down with a face full of regret. He shouldn't have saved his favorite chicken thigh for last. Li Longji quickly swallowed the 2 chicken thighs, raised his head, and said to the people in the oppressive atmosphere, Everyone tell me, how should I sharpen my sword? It's here. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. They looked at each other, but no one was willing to speak first. Seeing that no one was speaking, Li Longji shifted his gaze to Zuzan. Zuzan really hoped that he could become invisible and not be discovered by others. Seeing that Li Longji was forcing him to say something, he lifted the sword in front of him and looked at Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao first. He didn't see the 2 of them looking at him. What he saw was that the 2 of them were talking excitedly for some reason. From time to time, Zhang Xiaobao even pointed to the west. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that he was referring to Tufan. Wang Wan, on the other hand, smiled and waved her little fist, as if she was promising something to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao gave Wang Wan a thumbs up and nodded vigorously. Could it be that they want to make a move on Tufan? Zhu Zan thought to himself. Clang, clang, clang. Just as Zhu Zan was hesitating about how to reply, the sound of the Hu Jia and Ma Tu Chin on the ship stopped and changed to the continuous sound of the pipa string sweeping. It was a very familiar sound. Even without the first few verses, he could still recognize it. The current song was called Ambush on All Sides. Each sound was more urgent than the last. A scene that Zhu Zan didn't want to recall suddenly appeared in his mind. Report, our army has surrounded the Tang army at the Jinchuan mountain range, waiting for news of victory. Report, the villagers of Emolu village have been slaughtered, and the enemy is nowhere to be found. Report, our army has lost traces of the enemy on Jinchuan mountain range, and we have suffered heavy losses. Report, we have found out that the Tang Dynasty's reinforcements are from the logistics camp in Izhou. Report, our army's 15,000 soldiers are all dead, requesting for reinforcements. Report, our army's second and third reinforcements are blocked, and our logistics are cut off. Report, our army's provisions in 3 areas have been burned to ashes, requesting for more food. Report, this summer locusts are a disaster. I'm afraid we won't be able to harvest anything. Report, Zan Pu, His Majesty wants you to have a sword competition. Just as Zhu Zan was recalling the scenes, he heard the soft voice of the princess of Jincheng. Sword competition? Yes, sword competition. He wants to invite you to the sword competition on Mount Hua. Zhu Zan murmured and shook his head vigorously. He looked at the sword in his hand and sighed to the sky. 2 streams of tears flowed out of his eyes. He held the sword up high and knelt on the ground. He replied dryly to Li Longji, I'm slow-witted, Your Majesty. I'll do as you say. Sigh. More sighs sounded almost at the same time. However, when he suddenly closed his eyes, he seemed to have aged 10 years. He didn't want to blame Zhu Zan and say that he was timid. After all, he had been to Tubo before and understood the current situation in Tubo. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had stationed 30,000 soldiers and countless horses at the front line of Jinchuan Mountain, waiting for the war to start. In addition, there were troops flying in the sky, long spears that could decide life and death in 300 steps, and thunderous cannon fire. If it were him, he wouldn't have the courage to challenge Li Longji. Li Longji's brows relaxed. He nodded and said to Zhu Zan, what you said is exactly what I want. I'll give you the surname Li and reward you with 10,000 bolts of silk and $10 million. Thank you, Your Majesty. Zhu Zan's voice trembled. He bowed to the ground and didn't get up for a long time. Li Longji then looked at Mo Jillian. Mo Jillian, do you have anything to say? I want to go back and discuss. Mo Jillian couldn't make the decision and could only reply like this. At this time, Wang Wan suddenly interrupted, Your Majesty, I ask for your order to send Mo Jillian back to the Turks. I'm going to Feng province to train the soldiers and do some exercises. On the way, bring along the cannons and see if the horses are afraid of the sound of cannons. I thought about it again. I'm willing to listen to Your Majesty's order to sharpen the sword. Mo Jillian looked at Wang Wan and quickly expressed his position. He meant that he couldn't make the decision for the Turks, but he was willing to submit. Li Longji wanted to laugh out loud, but he restrained himself and looked at the others. Chapter 827. Under the threat of powerful military force, the countries and tribes around Great Tang expressed their stance. The representative of Xinlua, Li Yanqing, could not make the decision. He wanted to learn from the representative of Japan. The representative of Japan did not directly hand over everything like the Tubo and Turkic people. Instead, he continued to be a subject in name. Li Yanqing knew that Japan was not afraid of Great Tang's troops attacking them. What he was worried about was that Great Tang ships often attacked Japanese ships in the sea. Thinking about his own side, Xin Luo's position was not bad. The main problem was that Jili province was a little close to Xin Luo. He could not express his stance for the time being and could only tell Li Longji the truth. They would discuss it when they returned to Xin Luo. Li Longji did not expect to accept Xin Luo and Nippon into the Great Tang. Of course, he was not worried that Nippon and Xin Luo would stab him in the back. As long as Xiao Bao and Huan Huan were still in Jili province, they would suppress their ambitions no matter how bold they were. The people from the commanderies in the north of Hebei province were easier to talk to. Most of the population had been moved away, and the tribes had conflicts. They were not as united as Japan and Xin Luo. In addition, Jili province had given many practical benefits recently. In the past, they had interacted with Great Tang as a subject. If they were annexed, so be it. They could not follow in the footsteps of the Blackwater Commandery. They did not know how many people Commandery Prince Tang and would kill this time. Li Longji had sent so many soldiers. How could he withdraw so easily? However, Tuyu was the first to correct his position. After all, he was a general bestowed by Li Longji. Now it was just a matter of right and proper. The Turkic king Mo Jilian had already said that he could not make the decision. Everyone else understood. Although he was the Turkic king, the real military power was in the hands of Prince Xian of the left. The last one left was Zuzhenqi, the real master of Tubo. Everyone's eyes were on him. Zuzhenqi acknowledged Great Tang's rule, but he knew that Li Longji did not want a verbal promise. He wanted practical actions. Zhu Zan regretted coming here personally. If he had sent someone else, he would have been able to make more preparations. His previous experience of writing letters to Li Longji in a victorious tone, even after he had lost, would be gone forever. He pretended to eat a piece of meat and drank a full night of wine. Zuzhenqi asked Li Longji, "What arrangements does your majesty have? We would like to hear what you think." Li Longji couldn't think of what to do at this moment. The environment of Tubo was very troublesome to govern. Ordinary people would fall sick if they went there, and they wouldn't be able to adapt to the food. Cooking noodles and steamed buns was like a dream. Ancestor Chida was a little embarrassed. He glanced at the place where Zhang Xiaobao was, and saw that he and Wang Wan were lowering their heads and seemed to be secretly eating something. Suddenly, a plan came to his mind. "Your Majesty, this subject requests your Majesty to send someone to take over this subject's territory, from Jinchuan to Pengzhou Pass. Also, send a capable official to this subject's territory to deal with all the government affairs." Li Longji felt that something was wrong when he heard Chida's praise. Who didn't know that although that piece of land belonged to Tubo in name, it actually belonged to Xiaobao and Kuku? If they really sent someone to be an official, what would the two of them think? Unless two of them were sent there. But what about Jili province? Li Longji was in a dilemma. If he didn't control Jinchuan and Ruashe, he wouldn't be able to extend his hand to Tubo. But if he did, it would affect the two children. "Your Majesty, this subject feels that Ancestor Chida is right. It should be so. Now, this subject and the king have a caravan passing through. However, without an official to govern, it is inconvenient. This subject requests your Majesty to send a capable subject to govern. As for the land that your Majesty bestowed upon this subject and this subject thinks that this subject has no time to spare. Also, this subject heard that there is a city further west called Shancheng. Shancheng is further west, and there is a lake. The lake is like the sea. There are countless fishes and birds in it. There are even pearls that can reflect the moon. I hope your Majesty will allow this." When Li Longji was worried, Zhang Xiaobao suddenly spoke. He was holding a half-eaten chicken head in one hand and a piece of chicken thigh in the other. With a mouth full of oil, he talked about the ownership of a piece of land in a casual manner. It was as if he was talking about whether to steam or boil dumplings. When Ancestor Chida looked over, he nodded at Ancestor Chida, meaning, "You see, the two of us are on good terms. I support you." Li Longji was happy and in a good mood. He nodded and said, "Official Zhang's words are reasonable. I will grant Shansheng to you and the king and exempt the rent for 5 years. What do you think? This subject does not agree with your majesty's rent reduction. Jinchuan is more prosperous in the west. If your majesty reduces this subject's rent, what about the other places? This subject requests your majesty to take back the imperial favor. Zhang Xiaobao looked like he was thinking for the country and directly refused. Ancestor Qi was depressed. According to Zhang Xiaobao's words, not only did he not provoke the conflict between Zhang Xiaobao and Li Longji, but he also lost a large piece of land. If that lake was seized by Zhang Xiaobao, salt would be expensive in the future. No, he had to stop it. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble. Your Majesty, Qinghai Lake is far away from Pengzhou. It is inconvenient to travel. This subject is afraid that Governor Zhang has no time to control it. Why don't? That's not right. Ancestor Cheetah, I think I can do it. If you don't believe me, you can try. I promise to build that road. 100,000 cavalrymen from Pengzhou will arrive there in 3 days and 3 nights. Zhang Xiaobao did not bother to argue with Ancestor Cheetah anymore and wanted to make a bet with him. You can brag as much as you want. If you can arrive in 3 days and 3 nights, I will tear off my head and give it to you. Ancestor Cheetah thought in his heart. He said, of course there is no need, but this subject, well, I approve. From next year onwards, the surrounding areas will have to pay rent. Official Zhang will have to work hard. Li Longji impatiently interrupted Ancestor Cheetah's words and gave the place that did not belong to the Tang Empire to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. When the people of the Tang Empire saw that Zhang Xiaobao and the emperor did not have any conflicts, they were relieved. They were really afraid that Zhang Xiaobao would not give up the place. At the same time, they looked at Ancestor Cheetah with eyes full of schadenfreude. You deserve it. When Zhang Xiaobao's forces go there, let's see what you can do. Ancestor Cheetah was silent. His face was ugly. He did not even touch the meat that the princess of Jincheng gave him. Aunt Princess, I'll treat you to chicken. Brother's chicken is delicious. Xiao Bei was not satisfied with Ancestor Cheetah's attitude towards the princess of Jincheng. He used 2 knives to strenuously cut a chicken and brought it to Ancestor Cheetah. He wanted Ancestor Cheetah to take it. If he could, Zhu Zanqidu really wanted to slap Xiao Bei away, but he could only think about it. He didn't dare to put it into action. He tried his best to squeeze out a friendly smile. He took the chicken and said to Xiao Bei is really sensible. He then turned to the princess of Jincheng and said, Nu, I'll help you tear it. I thank you, Zangpu. The princess of Jincheng said happily. When Mo Jilian saw all this, he sighed in his heart. When did women have such a status in Tubo? Ancestor Qi was really pitiful. Fortunately, Li Longji did not agree to his proposal. Otherwise, he would have to treat a woman like an ancestor. The sword meet on Mount Hua was over. The warm bonfire dinner made many people feel cold. They followed Li Longji's instructions and boarded the ship to the capital. This year, they were going to spend the new year in the Tang Empire. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan did not plan to return to Jili province, nor did they plan to go to Luoyang. Their families had already set off from Luoyang and came to the capital together for the new year. They did not need to go back next year. Zhang Zhong was going to find an official position in the capital. The specific official position had not been arranged yet, but at the very least, he had to be a minister. His original second-rank official position would be removed, and he would become a third-rank official. It was an apparent demotion, but a hidden promotion. In terms of official positions, the happiest were Xiao Bei and the other 9. They had caught a spy and made a great contribution. The original imperial grandee was a 5th-rank official. He wore light red clothes and had a silver fish pouch. Now, he wore dark red clothes. He was a civil grandee and a traditional Chinese physician. He still wore a silver fish pouch. However, Xiao Bei chose to ignore the latter point. She liked the gold fish pouch. Her own handiwork was good. After Li Longji rewarded Xiao Bei and the others according to their contributions, he thought about it and felt that he should compensate Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. He also gave Xiao Bei and the other 9 people a power. The original imperial censor was now the imperial censor and the chancellor of the Supreme Court. It sounded like a mess. Those who knew of this matter were even more afraid when they looked at Xiao Bei and the others. If the imperial censor could only impeach and could not arrest people, then the chancellor of the Supreme Court could directly judge the case. Naturally, no one believed that the emperor would give such power to the 9 children. It was still controlled by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Although the 9 children very coincidentally caught a spy who wanted to murder the emperor, would they know how to judge the case? After Xiao Bei figured out the power she had, she also considered this problem. Judging the case seemed to be very difficult. Xiao Yuan, you have to memorize the Yong Hui Law and the 6 classics to avoid making a wrong judgment. You can't judge even if you memorize it. Do you think that you can write a case just because you have the power of the Chancellor of the Supreme Court? Do you know what a joint hearing is? Xiao Yuan poured a vat of cold water on Xiao Bei. There's such a thing? I don't care. I'll judge when I catch him. Xiao Yuan, let me ask you. Do you want to be an official? A real official like your brother and sister. Let's work together and reserve a county to bring good fortune to the people. Xiao Bei decided not to follow the rules. She rolled her eyes and proposed another idea. Xiao Yuan shook her head vigorously. No, I don't have that ability. If you want to be an official, you can be one. Okay, I'll go talk to them. Xiao Bei made a big decision. Zhang Xiaobao did not pay much attention to the promotion of his younger siblings. Instead, he discussed the matter with Wang Wan for a while, then looked for Li Longji to discuss it for 4 hours. When dawn broke the next day, Li Longji issued a series of decrees. The 40,000 people from the northern part of Hebei province were left to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. The 10,000 people with the most unstable hearts were trained in the capital. The remaining 30,000 people were divided between Shenandoah province and Huainan province. 25,000 soldiers were transferred from the 2 provinces to Fengzhou to participate in the prefecture army drill. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.